Reading, Son's Heir, Death's Guardian 2, A Hero's Peril by Engineer Forever. Link to the story in the description.
Reading, Son's Heir, Death's Guardian 2, A Hero's Peril. 22. Disclaimer, I don't own Naruto or Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Okay, taking back what I said about Beckendorf. Naruto scratched his head as he looked at the golden orb trapped in a spherical cage, lined with wires and all sorts of nonsensical machinery. Isn't nonsense. The Smith god grumbled as Leo nodded eagerly, wanting to finally see under the hood in his awesome moment. The blonde's eyes saw tubes, shiny and not so shiny parts, but his new acquaintance, soon-to-be companion if what Naruto's senses were telling him were right, and they usually are, saw a masterpiece. I am. Leo nodded, eyes roaming the screen, drooling a bit at the engine. Leo Valdez, the young runaway Latino, soaked up all he could, a look of disbelief on his face as he took in the sight. It would be, the boy nodded, if he hadn't know what he was, that would be his reaction to a T. This should be impossible, said Leo. I mean, theoretically it's possible, but practically, I've drawn sketches of this. That's right, the fire boy nodded, smug on his face, I've been doing this since I was 8. He boasted. Easy, Captain Fix-It. Ow, Piper. Just ow. I've seen this on paper. But in reality, it's impossible. There's no power source that could fuel it, you'd have to have like an H-bomb or something in here. We have H-bombs in camp? Percy cried out. Not really. Leo pouted, giving a pleading look to his dad, but Hephaestus shook his head. Leo's head hung in dismay. Darn it. I take it you know what it is, then? Naruto asked with an amused smirk. He looked over at Talia and Piper, both of them still sitting on the curb and waiting patiently for them to finish what they're doing. Talia gave a small nod of acknowledgement while she and Piper talked more about Camp Half-Blood. Professor Talia at work. Piper snickered. Yeah, McLean. Guess someone has to babysit you. I don't need to be babysat. The blonde looked back at the younger teen, his brow arched as he crossed his arms over his chest. So, what do you think? That's a loaded question. Jason smirked, getting gasps from his friends. Jason told a joke? Leo shouted. We're all going to die. Piper added, but just laughed as her boyfriend rolled his eyes. I still think that you're lying about your name, said Leo, making Naruto laugh. Seriously, Leo defended himself. It really is too strange to be real. And I also think that this beautiful engine, while impossibly amazing, is flawed. Wait, Annabeth said, all of Cabin 9 made that, and you're saying it's flawed? Leo snorted, duh. Flawed? Naruto asked. Yes, gringo, flawed. You know what flawed means, right? Snarky little ass, aren't you? Apollo asked the boy, who just shrugged. Who was he to deny that? Oh, moving into blonde jokes, huh? Tread carefully, shrimp. Leo simmered at the name, glaring at the blonde. Touché, asshole. I get it from my dad. Lucky that you know him, said Leo, distracted as he's starting to poke and prod at the engine. You're sure I can mess around with this? It's not stolen or anything, is it? I would think so, seriously, something of that grade. Leo nodded, you don't just see that, ever. Naruto smirked at the preteen's forced caution. It's top secret military tech, me and my girlfriend work for the NSA. Keep it on the down low. Yeah, Talia nodded, he'll believe that one, Naruto. Leo snorted, like hell he would. Yeah, sure, said Leo, his eyes rolling. He leaned into the engine and began pulling parts out, avoiding the glowing orb acting as the fuel. Don't need this, the hell is this doing in here? Are you just pulling things out? Percy asked. I am very good at what I do. Naruto shook his head in amusement, ducking under a random tube that was thrown out after Leo laughed at it for a second. Apparently Beckendorf and co either added a bit too much, or this kid was just messing around in his car. Hey! I work for legit, Blondie. He highly doubted that it was the latter. He always had a good feeling about most of these things. You said it was flawed? Naruto said, curious about what the younger kid meant. Yeah, it's flawed, said Leo, grunting as he pulled out another shiny object that Naruto could not name. See this? He held the object up. This and all that crap I just pulled out linked the H-bomb up to the accelerator. Are they that dumb? Leo asked while his father palmed his face in embarrassment. That's good, right? Naruto asked. If you want a short burst, said Leo with his eyes rolling. No, you want maintained speed with this bad boy. I'm going to need a few more pieces though, What's the frame made of? Wouldn't he like to know? Hades chuckled out. Why? Naruto asked. Because, gringo, I have to take into account the weight of the damn car before I hook the engine up, said Leo as though he were the older one. Wow, Piper whistled, I knew you had a mouth but seriously, Leo. Not my fault he doesn't know anything. Naruto scowled at the younger boy for the condescending tone, getting the boy to raise his hands in defense. What? You're the one asking stupid questions. He really is. We aren't all as smart as you, Leo. Hazel pointed out. The boy shrugged, not his problem. I may have a nice car, but that doesn't mean I know how it works, Naruto said, his scowl lightening. Look shrimp, and don't give me that look, I know what gringo means and that you're using it wrong since we're both American. The frame and most of the metal are made from a rare iron found only in one place that not many dare to go to. He isn't wrong, Hades said with a nod. And? Quite frankly, I can't tell you exactly where that is, said Naruto with a scowl. Against the rules, and all that other lovely BS. Rules? Look, can you fix my car or not? Naruto asked, impatiently. Can I walk through fire? Leo asked condescendingly. He hated when it came around to this part of the conversation with new demigods. The D'Angelos were a special case, but most of the time, when he met other demigods, especially during those stints as a vigilante in California, so my kid was playing Green Arrow, nice. Apollo cheered happily as Artemis rolled her eyes. Please, he was going for Hawkeye. PSH, you wish. I know. He respects me more. Yeah, but he and I are pals. Twins, Hestia said, getting them to stop. He would just suggest they look into finding buses to the camp. We have buses? Percy asked, where the hell were they all these years? I can, said Leo. He grinned at the older teen impishly. But I won't. Oh, you are bad, Piper laughed out. I try. The elf grinned, but it faltered from the glare sent by Nico and Hades. Maybe his other should, like right now. Naruto groaned as he rubbed his head. Joy, the kid was a chip off of his own shoulder. Dropping his hand to the side, Naruto opened his mouth to speak when he heard another engine rev down the street. Looking in the direction the sound came from, Naruto's eyes adjusted to the light for a second before they locked on the source. A familiar Audi A8 glared at him from the end of the street, making Naruto scowl. Oh come on. Percy groaned, seriously, stay down. You have got to be fucking kidding me, Naruto said. What are they, sharks? Friends of yours? Leo asked. Something like that. Work on the car, said Naruto as he moved to Talia and Piper. Wah gringo. Dude. Come on man, I'm not working a charity here. Leo. What? The boy said to the looks he was getting, I didn't back in the day. He glared, his hands didn't come cheap either. Work on the damn car, Leo, Naruto said, grabbing Talia and Piper's shoulders and pulling them up. Piper, get in the car. Talia, you're on me. We've got company. Naruto was cut off as he felt a sudden jolt of pain tear through his left shoulder, causing him to spin around and eat the dirt. Honestly, using guns. Artemis scowled, how pathetic. There was a reason why demigods still use traditional weapons. Any fool could use a gun, a warrior could use a sword or bow. Whiskers. Talia's voice was concerned, but collected. Piper, get to the car. Go. Naruto blinked to clear his bleary vision. So that's what being shot felt like. Ow. At least it was clean and the bullet went through. Best you can hope for. Apollo grimaced, he hated guns, made bows look weak, which was a super no-no for the archery god. Ares on the other hand, like the classless brute he was, loved them. The blonde let out a grunt as it was his turn to be helped up. Thank the gods Talia didn't grab the red shoulder torn through. Naruto grunted and reached into his pocket to pull out Eclipse in its flashlight form. Talia helped him over to some cover in front of the car. Was that a gunshot? Leo asked, only for his question to be answered by the sounds of an automatic rifle being unloaded in the area. Holy shit, who did you guys piss off so badly? I get guns fired at me? Leo exclaimed, great way to enter the demigod world. Percy patted his shoulder, little sympathy from him since he had it worse. Or at least assumed so. Welcome to our life, said Talia, setting her boyfriend down on the ground. You okay, Whiskers? I'm fine. Wish I still had my shield though, said Naruto, pulling the nicked edge of his white flak jacket in so he could get a better look at the wound. Check on pipes, Talia-chan, I'm good. Get her in the back seat on the floor. Leo, join her. Yes, send the fire user to the back seat. Leo nodded mockingly. They don't know you can use fire. Talia defended her other's boyfriend. Still. No way, Leo said with a scowl, his fists clenched tightly. No one starts a shootout in my neighborhood. Damn Skippy, other me. Trust me kid, without a gun of your own, there's not much you can do, said Talia. I got my own firepower. Leo smirked at his play at words, getting groans for the lame pun. She peeked around the edge of the car, groaning as she spotted the familiar grays of the skeletons that hunted her boyfriend. Great. The Bone Brigade is back. Yeah, I know, said Naruto with a growl. I hate these guys. Why are we being shot at? Piper asked from where she was on the floor of the car. The Stygian iron made the car bulletproof, well in a sense. From the distance the skeletons were shooting, the car was safe, but if they started to move closer, well, it wouldn't be as effective. Strange, Hades murmured, it should be. He'd have to have R&D check on that. Because skeletons are cheap, Naruto said, pressing his hand against the wound and heating it. I had said that as well, nephew. The huntress nodded. His vitokinesis was kicked into the max with the added pressure and heat. In a minute, he'd be good as new, with a small scar, probably. Skeletons? Gringo, what are you smoking and where can I get some? Leo asked. Leo Valdez, Hestia scolded. Can you blame me? He's talking about shooting skeletons. He peered around the car on the other side, his eyes going wide at the sight of a skeleton dressed like a generic mercenary, camouflage pants, boots and all. The skeleton raised its AK-47 and fired a burst at him, making him duck back behind the car. Sitting next to Naruto, he looked at the blonde with wide eyes. I thought you were going to a con or something, dressed like that. Well, Apollo said, he is dressed for it. The god chuckled. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Naruto asked. Thinking about his appearance, Naruto hummed and undid his headband and put it in his back pouch. Point taken. Flak still okay to wear? Considering they've got guns, yeah, I'd say it's safe to wear, said Leo. He looked at the blonde. Gringo, what the hell is going on? The start of your new life. Leo chirped to his other, man, was his world going to be rocked? The beginnings of war, said Naruto, looking at the flashlight in his hand. Really wish I had a shield right now. Hey, Talia-chan? I sort of need mine, Whiskers, said Talia flatly. She pulled her bracelet up and revealed it around the side of the car. Aegis. Leo's jaw dropped as a light emitted from her wrist before the massive Medusa stamp shield folded out. Subspace tech, said Leo, his eyes wide and his mouth salivating just a bit. I know, bro, I know. The fire boy nodded. It was amazing to see stuff like that the first time around. Wait until he gets a belt, or make his own. He looked at Naruto's flashlight. What's that turn into? Pure, unadulterated badassness, said Naruto with a smirk as he flipped the switch. The light turned on briefly before the blade extended out, sounding rather metallic as it did. The handle extended over Naruto's knuckles as the evil sword gleamed brightly in the setting sun. Leo Valdez, this is Eclipse. Eclipse, Leo. Hello sexy. Leo. Awesome, said Leo, his breath taken away at seeing such a masterpiece of creation unfold from a smaller form. His little engineer-loving head looked like it was about to explode in awe. Boom, Ares laughed, headshot. Lame. Hermes told him with a snicker as the god of war glared at him. I know, said Naruto smugly. He looked over at Talia. Talia-chan, take the right, hit him with a few bolts with a slow advance. I'll swing left, rush him and light him up. Right, said Talia. The two ran out from the front of the car, Naruto ducking, running and rolling out of the way of bursts of bullets. Talia, who gained some attention after sending a large stream of lightning at a skeleton, simply used her shield to protect her as she slowly advanced. If it isn't magic, it's guns. The hunter grumbled, seriously, so unfair to use. Stupid skeletons. Leo peered out from his cover and watched as the couple worked. Naruto got pinned behind a small stone hedging and Talia was forced to retreat. Hating the feeling of being useless, Leo nodded sternly to this, his hands clenched. The tinkerer turned back and looked at the scrap he discarded upon his first evaluation of the challenger. He grabbed every piece he could find and started to get to work, his hands moving just a tad faster than his mind as he finished his creation. It was an oil bomb. Oh, you magnificent bastard. Leo grinned wildly. Your other is a genius. Annabeth added, getting a quick nod from the boy in question. Looking up at the sky, Leo took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Mom, his eyes snapped open at the thought and he rushed out from behind his cover. You got this kiddo, you really do. The boy said softly to his other. Wait. Piper called out as she looked out the window from where she was crouched. Naruto and Taliya were way more prepared for this, and Piper was just coming to terms with swordplay and hand-to-hand combat. There was nothing about guns in the brochure. Yet, Ares smirked. Athena rolled her eyes. I don't see it happening. Just you wait, either mine or Hef's kids will do it. Only a matter of time. The war god laughed off. That idiot, said Taliya, watching from where she was pinned on the other side of the street. What is he doing? That little, Naruto said, his eyebrows furrowed together as he worked on a way to get the four of them out of this mess. Step aside as Leo Valdez saves the day and each of your asses. The Latino smiled. Eat this, boneheads, Leo said, throwing the bomb at the Audi, causing it to explode on impact with the hood and cake the group of skeletal mercenaries in oil. The skeletons hissed and shrieked at him, struggling to move and shoot him. Before Taliya or Naruto could even think of capitalizing on Leo's surprising maneuver, Leo's hand ignited in fire. And here comes my badass entrance as a hero. The boy smirked and looked to Piper. Leo 1, Piper 0, he joked, and the girl flustered at her less spectacular entrance as a demigod and pushed the laughing elf. Jerk. He chucked the small ball of fire at the oil, and as the conductor, the liquid burst into flames, caking both the car and the skeletons in it. Whoa, said Piper, her eyes wide. That was hot, Leo said, trying to fake Piper's voice. The girl just pushed him again, but he was still laughing. A pyrokinetic, said Taliya, trying to think of whose son he was. Engineering skill, fire throwing. She couldn't think of anyone that fit that except. Taliya's eyes widened as she looked at the smirking elf-like boy. A son of Hephaestus. And awesome is born. Leo, stop talking. Frank groaned. Make me, Canuck. He's my cousin. Naruto thought as he came to the same conclusion Taliya did. Naruto got out of his cover, walking over to Leo along with Taliya as the skeletons continued to be cremated in the middle of the street. So, was that hot or what? Leo asked, making Taliya groan and Naruto laugh. See, Piper? Even my other agrees. Quiet, Leo. You're on fire, Squirt, said Naruto, amused at Taliya's disapproval of his lame joke. Stop calling me that gringo, Leo said with a scowl. So am I worthy of getting some backstory now? PSH, hell yeah I am. Perhaps. Taliya nodded, slight approval in her tone. Almost, said Naruto, glancing back at the skeletons. He let his own hand get engulfed in fire, making Leo gape, before it started to rotate in his hand. Holding his open palm out towards the skeletons, Naruto grinned. Kaden, Razandangan, fire release, spiral bullet. The spiraling ball of fire shot from Naruto's palm at one of the skeletons, forcing it to turn to ash. He repeated the action 3 more times, clearing out the skeletons before nodding at Taliya while he lowered his arm. Taliya nodded back and roughly waved her hand across the area, summoning notice winds and scattering the ashes of the skeletal foes. Talk about overkill, Jason mumbled. It's called getting the job done, Jay. His sister smirked at him. Couple of freaks, aren't we? Leo asked in awe and amusement. Amen to that, brother. Leo smiled wildly. Normal is overrated, said Naruto, making Taliya smirk in agreement. So, you want backstory? Leo looked at the burning Audi and then back at the older teens. Hang on, I've got an idea. He rushed over to the car, ignoring the dwindling flames on it as they tickled his skin, and with a rough elbow to the edge of the hood, popped it open. Leo grabbed the engine. Sucks that I'm dismantling this, but it's for a good cause. A line every one of you brats has said once in their life, Dionysus said, looking at the demigods judgingly. But they ignored the bias as hell god. An hour passed and Leo was back next to Naruto's Challenger, tinkering and fixing the engine with the spare parts he made from the Audi A8. Naruto was leaning against the headlight and telling Leo all about the way things were, having previously explained that Leo was a demigod and yes, the Greek gods exist, and no, he was not allowed to tell mortals to pick up chicks. Leo. Piper frowned, but her mother was smiling at that. It was a cute idea. What? Leo shrugged, it's an important question. What's the point of being a hero if you can't brag about it? Leo asked with a frown as he put in a new tube leading from the engine to some other thing. Naruto wasn't sure what it was. Exactly. The Latino nodded. It's really fun for one thing, said Naruto with a grin on his face. Those skeletons aside, usually it's monsters that are easier to kill. True, Percy said dryly. Tough jerks those boneheads were. We turned those things to ashes. Ow, damn it, stupid sparks, and you're telling me they aren't dead? Leo asked, sticking his thumb in his mouth to cool the small burn he got from the spark. Fire is one thing, but electricity, that's a whole different hurt. Here, give me that, said Naruto, grabbing Leo's smudge-covered hand and yanking it from his mouth. Give yourself an infection, sucking on this oil. Meh, some oil's good for you. The mechanic shrugged uncaring, getting some looks. Don't you look at me, staple boy, he said, getting Jason to frown. I was too. Your point? What are you, some kind of Wonder Man? Leo asked in annoyance. He yelped when Naruto pinched the thumb at the burn. Ow, what the hell? Dude just wanted payback for the shot at him. Leo scowled. Agreed, Apollo said with a smile. That was the best thing you could do as a medic, you could hurt people and just say it helps. Had to find the afflicted area before it blistered, said Naruto, wrapping his hand around the thumb. And for your information, I prefer Marvel to Simon. His hand shone briefly before he released the wound. Good as new. Maybe we should just call you Medic, said Leo with a snort as he looked at his thumb. Medic indeed. Apollo smirked. Best character, ever. Ha, please, Hermes laughed. Scout all the way chucklehead. Ares snorted. Heavy's where it's at, losers. And yet I kill you all the time with engineer. The Smith god gloated, getting Ares to glare at him as he laughed. Anything you can't do? I've asked this question, Percy commented. And I haven't gotten an answer yet. Fly, said Naruto with a smirk. Talia-chan's little brother can, though, so we've got ourselves a blonde Superman. Acts like the man in blue, too. Noble and a bit of a smartass, thanks to yours truly. Thank you. Jason smiled, it was refreshing to see a different side to himself. Really? Sounds like an okay guy, said Leo with a chuckle as he got back to work. Rather be a smartass than a dumbass. Leo and Jason smiled at that, team up. Just wait till you meet Jackson, said Naruto with a chuckle. Ass. Percy scowled as Ares laughed at the comment from the blonde. The worst kind of mix of both. He's not dumb, but very ignorant and stubborn. A bad combination. So he's an idiot, without being an idiot, said Leo with a laugh. He sounds okay to me. Thanks Leo, really, Percy said dryly. No probs, wet dude. You only say that because he doesn't have the hots for your sister, said Naruto with a frown. So that's another reason he hates me. Percy muttered as Annabeth patted his shoulder supportively. He was still an ass, though. Protective, much? Leo asked with a sly grin. Shut it, squirt. Naruto growled, making the mechanic laugh and waved the insult off. Naruto looked down at the engine, watching the mostly hydrogen orb hover in its casing while Leo fastened another tube in place. What are you doing? Time for class with Leo Valdez, pens out people. Leo clapped his hands in a chop-chop motion. Making it so that once you reach light speed you stay at light speed. Give me a few minutes on the interior and you won't have any G-forces affecting you anymore, said Leo. And that has been class with Leo, please hit the like button folks. Just do it as fast as possible, I'm on a deadline, said Naruto, dead being fairly accurate, Nico said and looked at Leo. The seats can wait. Dude, comfort. Giving a small pat to the back of Leo's head. Gonna go check on my girlfriend, you good? I've got an H-bomb in my face and a couple of delicate wires to connect to it, said Leo. He looked up at his new friend with an excited grin on his face. I'm better than good, I'm in the zone. So true. Leo let out a content sigh at the thought, getting some weird looks, but his father laughed a bit. Naruto laughed and walked back to the stripped Audi A8, where Talia and Piper were flipping through some papers they found in the backseat. All written in ancient Greek. Intel. Annabeth cheered. Finally. They could have used some documents from the enemy. So what are we looking at? Naruto asked, leaning into the car window and looking at the papers in his raven-haired girlfriend's hands. His eyes narrowed. Is that what I think it is? Talia angrily handed him the paper. If you think it's a call to arms, then you're right. How many of these letters do you think were sent to campers' homes? That got some winces from the defenders of Manhattan. Considering this was written in March, I'd say too many, said Naruto with a scowl as he read through the lines. Better rulers than the Olympians. Bah! Zeus grumbled. Obvious favoritism to heroes of higher standing that got some sheepish looks from the gods. Claimed at birth. Hell, I'm almost tempted to turn at that last one. That does sound good. Percy admitted, getting nods, a lot of kids would go for that. It explains why there were 10 missing campers at the start of the summer from cabin 11, said Talia. Hermes sighed at that, always his cabin. She held up another piece of paper, which Naruto took. Piper found this. What is it? Naruto asked, though he was already reading it. Commissions for Cyclops arming? Telekines? Hephaestus actually sneered at their mention, stupid little demons. Yeah, invitation to one of the best forges on the planet, too, said Piper from the back seat. I've got lists of meat portions back here and several poorly drawn maps of, well, I think it's the labyrinth. Go me for helping. Piper smiled. Hand it up here, said Naruto, taking the paper from Talia after she got it from Piper. Cripes. Naruto's eyes widened. I knew there was an entrance at camp, but they're planning an assault. Clarice, Percy and Annabeth snickered at the mix-up. Clarice. Whatever, said Naruto, his eyes rolling. Mark's sister couldn't get through that thing, and if a daughter of Ares couldn't get through, why the heck would Luke think he can? She's a daughter of Ares, said Talia. Screw you, Grace, Ares sneered at his half-sister, who stuck her tongue out at him. Ares is not an imbecile, said Naruto pointedly. Especially to warfare. Athena is the goddess of honorable warfare, but Ares is the god of war, period. He knows insertion techniques just as well as Athena does. Mark may get bloodthirsty, but he's smart. I'm guessing Clarice is the same way. Thank you, Blondie. Ares smirked. Finally, some support in the family. From what I've heard from Annie about the Sea of Monsters quest, you wouldn't be wrong, said Talia with a frown. But they've got their own rivalry. Must be their parents' beefs coming to light every now and then. CTF matches, for example. Percy pointed out, getting a smirk from his girlfriend. Seems that way, said Naruto, who looked back down at the information he was given. Grab all of it, we're taking it back to camp. Mr. D is going to want to see this, even if he says otherwise. You just won't be the one to give it to him, right? I seriously have no idea what his issue is, said Naruto with a groan. Simple, he's a big purple pussy. The wine god glared at Ares for that comment, even Apollo and Hermes, who laughed with the war god. He handed the paper back to Talia. Keep searching through this and find out a potential list of monsters we're going to deal with. Taking that flak jacket seriously, aren't you? Talia asked in amusement at his order, knowing that obtaining the flak jacket was a huge deal for Naruto's village. Especially in their culture, since her boyfriend was considered a rookie or weakling without it, while in his 20s. Boy, was he given the short end of the stick on that part, considering what he could do now. Really, my kid could kick all their asses. Apollo bragged as Artemis rolled her eyes at him. You know you love it, said Naruto coyly, brushing a thumb on her nose before leaving the two to their leafing through the potential information. She stuck her tongue out at him as he left, settling back into the driver's seat and looking down at the papers in her lap. I bet she does. Aphrodite smiled coyly, getting Talia to glare at her for the assumption in her tone. What's the situation? Naruto asked Leo upon his return to the Challenger. Leo finished tightening a socket into place with a wrench, pulled the tool out and shut the hood. Engine's done. Give me a few minutes with the seats and those will be just as good, said Leo with a smirk, looking up at the older teen. Taking note of the grim look on his face, Leo asked. What's up? We need to leave, said Naruto, looking back at the Audi and whistling loudly to get Talia's attention. He waved at her to get back to the SOL before looking back at Leo. We just found some serious information that will help us in the coming war. I need to get back to camp ASAP. You can tune the seats to your preference when we get there, okay? Fine, but I was going for the comfort. Dude, forget the comfort. Nico argued sternly. Okay, well I call shot. The hell you do, said Talia, walking up to them with a briefcase in hand. Ha, Talia laughed. Nice try, kid, newbies in the back. What is this? Leo asked, segregation for the Latino and Native American? He asked mockingly to the hunter. No, the rules of life, kiddies. Seniority rules. The hunter retorted. She tossed it at her blonde boyfriend. There's all the stuff we could find. Skeleton's orders are to kill you, then Percy, and then report back to Luke. Thanks, Luke, honestly, Percy said in a sincere tone as Hermes sighed sadly. That explains why they're dogging me, said Naruto, with his brows furrowed. He shoved the case into Leo's arms. Get in the back with pipes, shrimp. Leo grumbled in Spanish while Piper glared at Naruto. Stop calling me that. Make me, said Naruto, sticking his tongue out at her. She stuck her tongue back out at him before climbing into the back of SOL, making Talia laugh while Naruto chuckled. He is pushing it, Piper pouted with crossed arms, but Jason just patted her shoulder to calm her down. The blonde climbed into his seat and Talia got into hers, both of them looking at Leo while he grumbled. Naruto beat Talia to the punch and asked, What's up, squirt? What kind of idiot leaves a big red button out in an easily pressed place? I mean, what, did they watch MIB before installing it? Talk about overlooked design flaw, said Leo. All of cabin 9. Annabeth pointed out. Remind me to have a talk with them, Leo mumbled. Seriously, they could not be that dumb. I cannot wait to see the look on Beckendorf's face when you say that, said Talia, bursting into laughter. Naruto shook his head and buckled up, putting the car in gear before flooring it. He got back to his normal speed of 240 miles per hour, before putting his hand on the stick shift. His eyes met with Talia's before he looked forward. Pipes, squirt, better hold on to something. Do it, said Leo, excited while Piper swallowed spit in fearful anticipation. For the thrill ride of her life. Leo. Piper groaned, she would not love that, not at all. Let's burn some rubber, said Naruto, hitting the small red button. Once again, the group felt the G-forces pull at their bodies, turning into a stream of light as it shot through the streets. Naruto was ready this time, making small jerks of the wheel that kept buildings and cars from being wiped out by the force of their speed. Like Tron, Apollo snickered, oh those light cycles were so fun to design. They made it in record time, just as the moon made it to the peak of the sky, coming to a screeching, ground-tearing halt. The harpies sounded their alarms and campers were up at the ready, the older and more experienced campers were rushing out to Half-Blood Hill at arms. Leading the charge was none other than the trainer of heroes himself. Chiron came to a stop as the doors to the familiar and smoking Challenger popped open, Naruto and Talia spilling out with their arms around their stomachs. It was the two younger kids who followed them out of the car that surprised Chiron. Remind me to kick the guy who made the seat belt's ass, said Leo with a groan. That was way too rough. See? Comfort. Yes, Leo, we get it. Jason rolled his eyes. Tell me about it, said Piper. They got to their feet, looking in awe at the large crowd. Leo took it upon himself to break the silence. What? Never seen a car before? That got some laughs. Classic Leo, Hermes said, classic. Naruto, Talia, said Chiron, shaken from his silence at Leo's words. Welcome back heroes. And to you newcomers, welcome to Camp Half-Blood. Always so nice. Piper smiled, she really liked the trainer of heroes. Naruto grabbed the briefcase from the car groaning as he walked over to the group, Talia nodding at Chiron. Naruto stopped and gave a two-fingered salute to Chiron. Good to be back, pony. Aw, the fox isn't going to say that anymore. Hermes pouted, the guy was a riot. Chiron groaned. Not you too. He's not going to bother you any longer, said Naruto sadly. He held out the briefcase. Important documents we liberated from some boneheads. Give 'em to Mr. D for me, will you? More work for me, Mr. D drawled, yay. Out of the way, said a voice from the crowd. Breaking through the crowd of battle-ready demigods, Nico D'Angelo came to a stop next to Chiron, out of breath and a tad annoyed he couldn't shadow travel in camp because of some dumb agreement his father made with his uncles. It wasn't dumb, learn to walk like the rest of them, Zeus said. Yet your children can fly all they want. Hades mocked back as Zeus' face turned stony. Gee Chiron, Bianca's, her, well you gotta come help us. Nico felt ice in his veins. Actually, Nico, I think you'll find better help from him, said Chiron, gesturing to the blonde, who became serious at the reminder of his charge's illness. Naruto dug around in his back pocket and after finding the serum made a clone to send with his young charge. Tell him everything you know, give this to Will, said Naruto, handing the vial to Nico. I gotta hang back for a second. Go now. Get to Will, go Nico. ER emergency, Apollo cried out. He was a doctor after all, he was naturally worried for a serious patient. Hi Oyabun, said the clone, knowing how serious this was, grabbing Nico's shoulder and using the Hiraishin to get them to cabin 13 faster. Naruto nodded curtly and turned to his group. Leo and Piper stood patiently behind Talia, who looked back at him. They nodded at each other before trudging through the boundary lines. The group of demigods split as they trudged through, Naruto's quest successfully completed. And the blonde boy wondered does it again, Talia whistled out and looked at Percy smugly. Pretty good record, too. 2 of his own quests completed. Ha! Ha, Percy said, so he jumped onto a few quests? So what? Figures you'd stick up for your boyfriend. The second they passed the boundaries, 2 sources of light appeared above the new demigod's head while the new demigoddess started to shine a light pink. Leo looked up and saw a fiery light, which unknown to him was in the shape of a hammer, getting a small group of cheers from some slightly dirty and muscled kids. Right on, tell me who you love? Leo hollered out with a whoop. Piper's shine continued and she found herself in a sleeveless white dress adorned with all sorts of accessories, her hair straightened and makeup applied to her face, making a few really good-looking kids cheer alongside their crafting step-siblings. Joy, Piper said sounding annoyed, not to her siblings, well, Drew withstanding of course, but the dress and makeup, again? Damn, said Talia, seeing Piper's claiming. No doubt jealous. Aphrodite gloated as Talia gagged, pointing her finger into her mouth. That dress was, while nice, just a bit much. Or not. Artemis smirked at the pouty goddess. Kind of glad I'm not Aphrodite's daughter. Don't knock it until you tried it. The goddess huffed. Piper gave a joking iffy motion of her hand. Why the heck am I in a dress? Apparently, Piper shared Talia's sentiment. Sweetie. You look amazing. I know, Mom, Piper sighed out. I'd rather wear a dress be of my consent, not yours. Same thing. The Lady of Doves muttered. Scratch that. Really glad I'm not Aphrodite's daughter, Talia said with a smirk to her boyfriend. Naruto laughed at his girlfriend's statement. Wait, who's my parent? Leo asked, a bit confused since all he could see was the ball of fire. Don't know any Greek stuff at the time, Leo said to the look sent his way. Shut up. The boy pouted. Chiron stepped forward and knelt. All hail, Leo. And Piper. Wonder Twin powers, activate, they joked together and laughed. Hey, Apollo said to them, the twin thing is our shtick. He pointed to himself and Artemis, who rolled her eyes. Get your own. Naruto shook his head in amusement, stepping forward and kneeling before the new demigods. All hail Leo Valdez, son of Hephaestus. All hail Piper McLean, daughter of Aphrodite. Thanks Blondie, guess he has his uses after all. Uses? Apollo asked his nephew. Yeah, intros. The boy said cheekily. Talia knelt beside him and swiftly the rest of the campers knelt in recognition of the married god and goddess claims. True, that was a nice twist. Aphrodite commented as her husband rolled his eyes, whatever, as long as his kid was at camp. Okay, I can see why this is cool now, said Leo with a grin. Yes, Bo. Bow before me mortals. Leo, Jason said with a mild glare. What? Don't tell me it wasn't funny, Jay. Whatever. See. You're smiling Tilda. Looking over at his new stepsister. You know, you really pull that dress off. She does. The love goddess proclaimed, thank you, Leo. Anytime. Don't give her more fuel, Leo. Sure love child. I will cut you, said Piper, grinding her teeth in annoyance as she held up her dagger at the boy. Piper, Leo shouted, looking hurt. Sorry. The Native American girl told him, amending her mistake, she was just surprised about the dress probably. Who raised his hands in surrender. Good boy. Shut it Pipes, before I wrench you. Hey. She tolerated them at best, but she was not a girl that liked to be forced into a dress and then paraded like some sort of award. I like it, Aphrodite said. Artemis sneered, of course you would, harlot. Virgin. Proud of it. The sad fact is you are proud. She got that enough from being her father's daughter, thank you. Kids of movie stars usually have it rough, Piper sighed out. Life was never normal for her when her dad got famous. Before she could get another word in edgewise, her apparent sisters came in and swept her away to the cabin, a laughing Silena Beauregard quickly following them after thanking Naruto and Talia for taking care of her new sister. At least I finally get to meet her. Piper smiled, really wanting to know more about her sister. Charles Beckendorf then came up and clapped a hand onto Naruto's shoulder, his small group of siblings encircling Leo and talking to him while the others went back to bed at Chiron's urging. The Smith smiled at the blonde. Thanks, Naruto. For bringing him here. Could always use another hand in the forge. Leo smiled, happy to see his awesome big brother, but, here it comes. The elf smirked. Yeah, I'll bet, said Naruto, laughing a bit with Talia at what they knew would be coming. What does that mean? Beckendorf asked, his brows furrowed in confusion. Hey. You. Beck, Leo said, walking over to his taller brother and jabbing a finger in his chest. The hell kind of rookie are you? Rookie? Hephaestus asked and looked ruffled, giving his son a glance. Well, he was for something like that. The boy argued sternly, getting a small, nearly unnoticed nod from the Smith god. Rookie? Beckendorf asked, confused even more. You're the one that put together the H-bomb engine, right? Leo asked. Getting a nod, the Latino continued. Why the hell would you make that thing the accelerator? What are you, new to this? And here I thought your kids couldn't get burned. Hermes told the Firebeard, who glared at him. That's just me, Uncle Hermes, Leo said, getting the god to say, true. I've been putting cars together longer than you, said Beckendorf, a bit upset at the criticism. Too bad, you done goofed dude. AC cell orator. You hooked it up as the accelerator, Leo said. You didn't make it consistent speed, just a small burst. Well yeah, no one wants to get roasted while they drive. I wouldn't. We get it Leo, Hazel said, you're fireproof. You don't need to keep reminding us. But the joke's Tilda. The Latino whined, they're just smoking. See? Get it? Ha! I'm a genius of comedy. Hey, we're the comedic ones, Valdez, Hermes said, gesturing to himself and Apollo with his thumb. All right, from now on, you don't touch my car. I thought it was Naruto's? Annabeth blinked, but Leo snorted. Excuse me? Naruto asked, arching a brow at Leo's claim. The smaller preteen waved him off. I put your engine together and I'm fine-tuning your ride tomorrow so that you don't set yourself on fire at full speed, said Leo, a pointed look at his annoyed brother. Plus, who else you gonna trust to make your car work, gringo? He has a good point. Frank nodded, he wasn't much of a car guy, but Leo was the one to go to for those things. Beckendorf arched a brow at that while looking at the blonde and Naruto held his hands up in defense. Hey, whoa, I designated it to the cabin, not you specifically. My point exactly, said Leo. He turned to look at his siblings. And which one of you geniuses decided to pull a Men in Black tribute with the big red button? No one was willing to raise their hand and all of them looked a bit embarrassed at that, even Beckendorf. Yeah, none of you touches the gringo's car without my say-so. Geez, a Men in Black button, what will they think of next? Geez, just make Leo head counselor already. Percy whistled, clearly impressed. 4 more years, 4 more years. Leo cheered with a laugh. How's about bed, Mr. Valdez? Chiron asked, walking over to the group. It is lights out. What, already? Leo asked. It's only what? 8? 9? Time zones, Leo, time zones, said Naruto. Yeah, that's my fault. Apollo waved off but blinked and hummed while cupping his chin. I think. He gave a 2-finger salute to Chiron and then turned to Leo and Beckendorf while slipping an arm over to Leo's shoulders. See you tomorrow, boys. They vanished in a flash of light and Leo's jaw dropped. Could he always do that? Yep. The hell does he need a car for? That made everyone, minus Apollo, blink. That was a fairly good point. Even with that time-space explanation from the Valentine special. Duh. It's a car, Apollo said, as if it were obvious. Naruto appeared in cabin 13 after giving Talia a final kiss goodnight, intent on checking on his charges. No sooner had he appeared did a certain giant cat pounce on him, giving his cheek rough licks of affection while giving off a rumbling purr. Stupid feline, Hades fumed, get out of the way. Ranger, good to see you, too, said the blonde with a smile, pushing the large saber-tooth off of him with a bit of strain. You got bigger, buddy. Good boy. He petted Ranger just behind the ear on the neck. Glad to be home. He got up and walked into the D'Angelo's shared room. Will was using a needle to inject Bianca with the serum and the poor daughter of Hades was paler than usual, her upper and bottom lip stained black from that sludge she spewed up. Nico's heart was aching as Hazel held his hand, but she was safe, that was all that mattered. The Black Death was an appropriate name to give to the disease, it seemed, even if that wasn't one of the common symptoms. Naruto nodded to his younger brother while Nico grinned at him, the boy's olive skin having a bit of dirt and grime clinging to it. Questing does that. Nico pointed out with a look to Percy, who glared at him for it. How is she, Will? Naruto asked as he walked over to Nico's side, ruffling the boy's hair and arching a brow as some dust fell out of his raven locks. He'd have to talk to Nico about that later. Ooh, Nico's in trouble. Stuff it, Aqualad. Better, said Will, looking at his brother with a grin. You should know from your clone how bad it was. Naruto just nodded and put a reassuring hand on Nico's shoulder as he recalled the memory of his clone's brief life. Bianca was rolled on her side, more of the black sludge coming out of her mouth with every rough cough she gave. Though he did remember her looking at Will and the way he held her hand to help her through it. Aphrodite was in a tizzy, giggling with glee. Hades, not so much, glaring at the image as Nico scowled. Dude was so not worthy of his sister. It seems Naruto missed quite a bit while he was on his quest. He could only wonder what Lord Hades would think of this development, a child of light and a child of shadow coming together. Aphrodite must be going gaga over it. I know. The Lady of Doves sang out as Hades glared at her and then Apollo. The sun god held up his hands. Hey, it's not my fault little player has game. Apollo. The dead god glowered at his wording. If the boy so much as breaks her heart, oh Will Solace, a name to remember. Her vitals are stabilizing, said Will, holding the girl's wrist. He bowed his head and murmured a prayer, most likely to their father, before looking back up at his brother. Whatever you got is working. What was it? Ninja magic. Artemis quirked her lips towards her brother, who was pouting at the fact that a mortal, a super hot one, made something he could not. Stupid deer antlers. Get enough left over to have your mom break down the chemical formula and you'll know, said Naruto, swallowing dryly before patting Nico on the shoulder. You've done a lot and I'm grateful, Will. Good job, kid, Hades owes you. Apollo grinned to his uncle. Bah! The god waved off. The boy would be lucky if his other didn't smite him for trying to court his daughter. Get some sleep. You too, Nico. Lights out. You got it, Naruto, said Will as he carefully put Bianca's arm over her stomach. Okay, said Nico softly, getting up and going to his bed. Will walked out of the room, followed by Naruto. The younger blonde went to the next room over where he had a small bag rolled out. He said another night to his older brother, who nodded back as the adrenaline rush finished burning through his system. He crashed onto his bed, grunting as Ranger bounded up after him, collapsing next to him and purring contently. Naruto smiled at his sacred animal and ran his hand down the giant cat's back. Range, you wouldn't believe the shit I went through the last few days, said Naruto with a chuckle. It was quite the quest. Athena admitted, the boy was practically all over the place. Ranger yawned, making the blonde smirk. Good idea. I'll tell you in the morning, then. His eyes drifted shut, and Naruto Uzumaki felt the realm of Morpheus embrace him. Naruto was awake early the next morning, reveling in the first peaceful rest at camp in a long, long while. Ranger had moved in the night to the floor at the foot of Naruto's bed, apparently reassured that Naruto wouldn't leave again. Aw, Annabeth cooed while Percy rolled his eyes at her love for the big cats. The blonde rolled out of bed, content with the sleep he got. He greeted the equally early rising Ranger with an affectionate stroke of the head, getting a rumbling purr for his efforts. He checked on his blearily waking brother, Will, who like him as a son of Apollo woke with the sunrise, and then the two D'Angelos. Nico had the covers over his head, his arms sticking out at the side, and Bianca had a peaceful smile on her face, her olive skin tone returning to its proper shine. Yes, Nico said with a sigh of relief as Hades had a small smile on his face as well. Go ahead and get some food, then come back and check up on your patient. If that's all she is to you, said Naruto, a smirk on his face as his brother's cheeks turned red. Your son is quite the matchmaker, Apollo, Aphrodite nodded in approval. Apollo shrugged, it's in the genes. Shut up, Naruto, said Will, rushing out of the cabin while trying not to look like he was, making Naruto chuckle at his brother's retreat. Flustering the younger kids always made his day. Naruto waited for Will to get his fill, tagging out so to speak when the boy returned and giving his little brother a knowing grin that had Will growling at him. The love goddess cooed, oh he's all embarrassed. Seems to be the pure boy type, she giggled in wonder, thinking of what Bianca's type would be. Yeah, one of my more respectful kids. Amazing, Artemis said dryly, getting Apollo to give a mock hurt look to her. He left the cabin with Ranger close behind him, the large cat becoming his personal escort, who left his side upon laying his eyes on the daughter of Zeus at the dining pavilion. Ranger sprinted ahead and nearly tackled Talia to the ground with a deep meow of joy. The girl laughed at the big cat's antics, returning his affection with a smile and a fond pet of the happy Sabretooth. Likes me more it seems, Talia said, sounding smug. She looked up at her boyfriend as he approached with a smile of his own on his face. The cure working? She asked, a hand on Ranger's head and idly scratching it. So far, said Naruto, smirking at the purring Sabretooth. Ranger sure has gotten affectionate, hasn't he? Considering we hardly left the camp in the past year, he must have been beside himself with worry, said Talia, smiling at the cat. Right? Ranger said nothing and continued to purr under her scratching, content to be back with his two favorite demigods. My kid just gets all the pussy, Apollo. Cat. Honestly, let me finish Arte, TSK, TSK. Apollo wagged his finger at his twin, getting the goddess to glower at him, but also for walking right into that one. A dirty look to Hermes shut the youngest god up quickly. Naruto shook his head in amusement at their actions and looked around the pavilion. The other campers were awake and settling into their tables. Leo looked like he was having a blast, joking and shoving around his larger siblings like he wasn't the black sheep of the group. That's good, family time is fun time after all. Leo smirked as Hestia beamed at that. Piper, however, was arguing with the hellion that was Drew Tanaka, until Silena stepped forward and forcibly separated the two half-sisters. Well, at least Piper got out of the dress. Hey, Piper smirked, I have a quest under my belt before even coming to camp. The girl said, ha. Eat that, Drew. Naruto. The blonde turned at the call of his name and smiled at the rushing form of his adopted little sister. He caught Annabeth as she bowled into him, her arms wrapped around his sides in a tight hug. Aw, the girls, minus Annabeth, cooed as the blonde flushed red and Percy clenched his hands. Hey Annie, said Naruto. You guys have Annie? What he thought was laughter turned out to be crying, Annabeth's shoulders shaking as she burrowed her head into his chest. Annie. Shh, it's okay, Annie. Shh. Oh, yeah. Percy winced at the fact he was dead. Annabeth glared at him, making him sink in his seat a bit. The boy oddly wondered what was going through his other's head, since with the whole news of who Annabeth liked, man, that was going to make him leaving even harder. He shared a concerned look with Talia, who nodded back at him. They knew Annabeth would rather die than be seen so defeated in front of the rest of the camp. True, the daughter of Athena nodded. Talia put a hand on his shoulder before the 3 demigods and Sabretooth were teleported to the outside of Zeus' cabin. Talia quickly opened the door, where Ranger bounded in, sniffing around one of his favorite spots, and Naruto walked Annabeth in and out of sight. With the door shut behind him and rushing past the overbearing statue of the cabin's sire to Talia's room, I still find it ridiculous you have something like that in there, Poseidon said as he rolled his eyes. His ego, Poseidon, it's all ego. Hades reminded, getting a mocking ah from his middle brother and a furious glare from his youngest. Little good it did though. Naruto pried Annabeth off of him as best he could to get a look at her face. Annie, come on, you gotta tell me what's wrong or I can't help, said Naruto softly, stroking her hair soothingly. Wise puffy red and gray eyes opened to look at him, and the blonde felt his heart break just a little. Percy winced again, but felt Annabeth snake her hand around his, giving it a good squeeze, one he quickly returned. I broke the rule, she said, sniffling as she tried to recompose herself. I left my friend behind. More tears escaped her as she looked down. Oh yeah, Jason winced, Naruto's rule. Annabeth shifted uncomfortably. I'm feeling that from here. She muttered, remembering the heartache from that day. I wanted to help him, but he made us leave, and then the volcano erupted. I could have helped him, why wouldn't he let me help him? Everyone looked at Percy, who looked away, just squeezing Annabeth's hand once more, as if to say sorry for scaring her. Annie, calm down, said Naruto softly as she started to fall apart again while Talia looked at her in concern. They moved to the couch where Naruto sat Annabeth down between himself and Talia, Naruto keeping an arm over his sister's shoulders while Talia stroked Annabeth's head. Aw, they look like a little family. Hazel smiled while Talia and Annabeth flushed. It was a nice picture. Now, tell us what happened while we were gone. And so she did. Annabeth told them how she was chosen to lead a new quest to find Daedalus, meeting a 100-handed one and fighting Kampa, being assisted by Hera after meeting a strange god named Janus. Naruto bristled angrily at the mention of what was going on at the Triple G ranch. Thank you, Naruto. Apollo nodded in approval. And whined jealously at Annabeth's infinite throwing knives, succeeding in making her crack a smile. Annabeth smiled at that, but then she pouted. She wanted something like that cane. Or those knives. Talia gave her a thumbs up for killing the Sphinx, and Naruto asked how Hephaestus was doing. He was rather lonely, said Annabeth, unable to find the words. That's an understatement. The smith muttered, glaring at his family who looked away. That's Uncle Hef for you, said Naruto with a sigh. Damned good mechanic, but really bad at interacting with others. Which is Hera's fault, said Annabeth with a frown. Hera bristled, no it isn't. Talia smirked at that, agreeing while feeling sorry for her half-brother. It's Hera's fault for his appearance, but all Olympus is to blame for his loneliness, said Naruto pointedly. See? Hera pointed out, ignoring the other less pleasant part about her, like it wasn't even there. Athena is no exception to this, Annie. One time her spear just showed up while I was giving Uncle Hef a few ideas for a new sort of arrow. It was chipped on the edge, apparently from stabbing Uncle Ares in the thigh or the ass, hard to say. No note or anything, just expectant. Athena looked embarrassed as Annabeth looked at her in disbelief and had a frown on her face. Ares was glowering at the thought of that happening. It had a few times. I doubt my dad and Annie Arte are innocent of this sort of thing. Heck, I'll bet the only two that aren't are Uncle Herm and Mr. D, and that's because they're both too busy. Well, I am, Hermes said and looked at his once demigod brother. You're just lazing about. The god of wine just glared at Hermes, despite his words being true. But he still had to deal with the little brat, so it wasn't easy. Annabeth conceded to that and continued with her story, telling them how Grover and Tyson, who Naruto admitted to be worried about since he was a good friend to Hephaestus more often than not isolated cabin members, split off from the group to find Pan. Talia and Naruto shared a look. Gee, I wonder what they know? Percy asked aloud. Oh, be quiet, Percy. Talia frowned at the water boy. That Annabeth missed, thanks to Ranger plopping his head on her lap before the two demigods returned their attention to the younger blonde. Thanks, Ranger. Annabeth smiled at the big cat. Then she came to the forge in Mount St. Helens, describing the telekines and their current project, before coming to the end of her tale, where Percy told her and Nico to leave while he held the monsters off. Which was dumb. I said I was sorry. Percy whined to his girlfriend, who had a stern look on her face, but fell soon after. I know, still you had me worried is all. Talia was comforting Annabeth by the end, Naruto far too lost in his thoughts, leaning forward with his fingers steepled together in front of his mouth. Ooh, he's got that thinking cap on, Leo chuckled. He's alive, said Naruto after a long while. Boo. Ares jeered, getting Poseidon to glare at his nephew. He sat back and pet Annabeth's hair, making her look at her in confusion. Jackson wouldn't be dead or Nico would have felt it and said something by now. True, Nico nodded, he would know that. How do you know? Annabeth asked, her eyes puffy from her crying. Naruto smiled at his little sister reassuringly and tapped her with 2 fingers on the forehead. Because, silly little sister, Nico is the son of Hades and has bonds with all of his friends. Hades, like his brothers, is emotional, even if he hides it well. He is fiercely protective of his close family, going as far as to hide his children in a time-manipulated casino. Nico smiled at that. Ah, memories. Imagine how Nico or even Bianca would feel if their cousin who they trained and grew with last winter just died without being informed, said Naruto as he dropped his hand. He looked up at the mural on the ceiling that resembled a thundering sky, just like in the first room. Bonds truly are the strongest force on this planet, Annabeth. It could make a mother gain 10 times her strength for the child she carried for 9 months. Hestia and Hera smiled at that. Very true, a mother was many things and so were bonds of love and family. Or a man become immune to pain for the rage he feels at the loss of a friend. I like that one, Ares said with a chuckle. I think you would know if Jackson died. What does your gut say? Yes, Annabeth, Aphrodite winked. What does the love say? Annabeth flashed a smile to Percy, who gave a beaming one back. He's alive, said Annabeth quietly, but assured in her statement. And love has it, folks. The love goddess declared triumphantly. Yeah, he is, said Naruto, ruffling her hair. That idiot is too stubborn to die. True. The blonde smiled slyly, but he is my idiot after all. Percy shrugged, I can deal with that. Sounds a lot like you, Whiskers, said Talia, making her boyfriend laugh. So does that mean both you go for the same kind of guy? Leo asked the hunter and wise child, who flushed a bit at the question. Thought so. The pyro snickered. Yeah, and that's one of my better traits, said Naruto with a smirk. He looked back up at the moving mural. He'll be back soon. Well, he'd better be, at least. I will, Percy said with an assuring nod. As the sun rose on an island not mapped or plotted anywhere save for Olympus, a raven-haired teen with green eyes gasped awake, coughing and groaning. A shadow cast over him and someone helped him sit up to drink some water. Annabeth pursed her lips as Percy gave a slight smile to the screen. Rest, you need to rest, said a pleasant voice. Percy Jackson blearily tried to identify the owner of the voice, but he soon returned to the realm of Morpheus, dreaming of his friends and the second home he had at Camp Half-Blood. We miss you too. Quiet, Leo, Percy grumped. Man, that was a teasing ending, Apollo laughed. Can't wait to see what the battle is going to be like. Ares grinned. Of course you would. The gods rolled their eyes at the war god. 23. Percy Jackson was not having a good month. I never do in the summer, Percy said in a dry tone. Summer is the time all mischief happens. Hermes told him with a smirk. Plus, they want you to suffer in school first, then try to kill you. Leo snickered, making Percy groan. It made so much sense now. The bastards. First, before going out with Annabeth to see a new movie before going to camp, he gets attacked by cheerleaders turned monsters and then gets into a fight with Annabeth. Then, after his cousin's boyfriend gets some secret quest that's real hush-hush, the replacement makes a stupid game where he and Annabeth nearly got killed by giant scorpions, resulting in them finding an entrance to the labyrinth. Happy fun times, right? Percy asked Annabeth, who nodded. The adventures through the labyrinth itself were worthy of being its own book. Well, technically. Apollo trailed off since they were reading a book. Facing off against Kampa to save the 100-handed one, being confused by Janus the two-headed god and Hera the queen of Olympus, meeting Geryon and seeing Apollo's red cattle, and Annabeth getting the killing strike on the Sphinx. He was impressed by Annabeth's skill with the knives she found at Triple G Ranch and Nico's use of shadow travel. Following that was meeting his cousin Hephaestus, a real strange encounter considering how the smith acted, stranger than when he met Hephaestus' wife. But then came a big, shocking and upsetting discovery. Annabeth had a crush on Naruto. Watch as the jealously goes through the roof, Annabeth, Aphrodite giggled. Oh, she loved the drama. Thinking about the blonde son of Apollo made Percy want to grit his teeth. Mr. Perfect, of all people. He was pretty much everything Percy was not: smart, cool, smooth, handsome, witty, and strong. Well, Apollo shrugged, he's not wrong. His kid was a beast. Hell, this was probably the guy Luke learned everything about being Mr. Cool from. That dimension of Luke, Hermes added, his son has his own swagger after all. Obviously, Percy hadn't heard any stories about Naruto's past in Konoha, where he would run around after a successful prank and proclaim proudly, "One day I'll be the Hokage, Dadabayo." Ah, blissful ignorance. That sums up Jackson in a nutshell. Ares jeered with a laugh as Percy glared at him. Funny, one could say that about you too. Percy shot back as they glared at one another. Wake up, said the pleasant voice from before. Percy groaned as he was stirred from his dreams of fire, a laughing blonde and a smirking one and the dark mockery of his grandfather. The raven-haired boy blinked his eyes and rubbed his head as he sat up. Wonder what that dream was about? Hyper wondered as Percy frowned. How are you feeling? The voice asked, coming from behind him. Like I just got shot out of a volcano, said Percy with a grunt, his skin feeling tender and his muscles feeling like jelly. His throat was sore and his voice sounded like a toad's. He covered his face again, rubbing the tiredness out of his eyes. Where am I? My home. The voice said. Percy turned to ask dryly where he was specifically when the girl that stood before him struck him speechless. She was pretty, beautiful even. He might dare say she was more beautiful than Aphrodite because she wasn't trying to be, she just was. Her caramel hair was braided and fell over one shoulder, giving her a shy allure, and her dark almond-shaped eyes looked at him with genuine concern. Her skin was milky and timeless and her lips were pouty. There was also the faint smell of cinnamon in the air. Annabeth pursed her lips at that description as Percy grabbed her hand. I picked you, didn't I? He smiled, one she returned. Yeah. She pecked him on the cheek lovingly. Who are you? Percy asked after a silent beat. I am the queen of this island, she said, smiling just a bit bitterly. Calypso. Percy took a moment to nod slowly and look around at his surroundings. He was in a very well-refurbished cave. There was a fireplace built into the wall, a pot hanging over it that was giving off the smell of something delicious. Like beef stew. Just thinking about it made Percy's stomach growl. Percy looked past the white veil-like curtains acting as walls and over at the harp playing on its own to the side. Percy got off the cloud-like bed, nearly collapsing as he did. Pretty nice pad. Leo commented, cozy even. It was. Percy nodded, it just made you relax and feel at peace. Calm yourself, brave one, Calypso said as she caught him. She helped him right himself and moved him to the table. Percy sat with a grunt, his body felt like it was still on fire. I know that feeling. Ha, Leo. Percy rolled his eyes with a smirk at the grinning elf. He really hoped that he did what Hephaestus asked. A bowl was set in front of him by, nothing? Eat, Calypso said, sitting across from him. You must recover your strength. Thanks, said Percy gruffly, his throat sore. Hesitantly, he picked up the spoon and shakily brought it to his mouth. It was delicious. Almost like he was eating something familiar. Blue food? Talia asked him with a smirk. No. Percy pouted, he wished, but it was still amazingly good. Is this what I think it is? Ambrosia? Yes, mixed with a few herbs, it helps demigods recover quickly, said Calypso with a small smile directed at him. Percy shifted a bit at the look he got from the girl, his cheeks burning a bit at the intensity of her stare. Annabeth shifted a bit too. She was very intent to know exactly what had happened on the island of Calypso. Why are you looking at me like that? Percy asked. Calypso said, blinking a bit before flushing. Oh, no reason. Just, making sure you enjoy your meal. It has enough ambrosia just to help you recover. I have to go. She likes what she sees, Aphrodite teased Percy, who flushed a bit. Before he could stop her, the teenage girl rose from her seat and hurried out of the room. Percy just blinked in confusion before looking down at the soup in front of him. With a small shrug, he got back to eating the meal that was arguably up there with his mom's blue cookies. True, Percy begrudgingly said, not wanting to admit it. He frowned when his thoughts drifted to Nico and Annabeth, wondering if they got out of the volcano before it erupted. I hope they got out okay, Percy said to himself softly. I did, Annabeth said, so we probably both did. Nice, rather not be baked by a volcano like Percy did. Nico commented. Someone's talking about you, Annie, said Naruto with a chuckle as the girl sneezed. They had just finished mapping out the labyrinth, which really didn't go that well, despite Annabeth's venture through it a week prior. They had the connection to Alcatraz, which reminded Naruto of the trip he had to make there, the opening to the Triple G Ranch, outside of Clarissa's house, the exit to Mount St. Helens and the entrance at Zeus Fist. Or ride Gigi's Deer Poop Rock, as Naruto so elegantly put it before Annabeth corrected him when the sky boomed. Zeus fumed at that while the demigods snickered and the gods laughed. After that failed attempt at mapping it out, Naruto decided to cheer her up by taking her to the archery field and work on their throwing skills. "Isn't that sweet of him?" Hazel teased Annabeth, who glared at her with pink cheeks. "I still don't believe that is a wives' tale," said Annabeth, frowning as she pulled out another throwing knife. She tossed it at the target where it hit just at the edge of the bull's eye. "Nice shot." Annabeth puffed up her chest for her other as others rolled their eyes. "You never believe anything, Annie," said Naruto. He turned around and pulled a kunai out, looking at it as he held it by the tip before he threw it behind him. It hit dead center and he grinned. "I'm so awesome." "You're such a showboat, Naruto." "It's easy to guess who your dad is," Annabeth said with a glare, pouting a bit at the shot she couldn't make. "Yet, anyway." "A little time, Naruto's had more experience." Annabeth told her other. "You do know she can't hear you, right?" "Shush, McLean." "I'm not that bad," said Naruto. He glared back at her, both of them pulling out their respective knives before throwing them. They looked at the targets and Naruto smirked while Annabeth pouted as Naruto hit the center of his while she was a few centimeters off. The whiskered blonde crossed his arms. "Well, I think we know who won this argument. The knife says it all." Ares nodded. "Shut up, Naruto. Make me, Annie. I could tell Talia about the I am with Irene." "Ooh, evil." Aphrodite nodded. "I like. I would literally do anything to keep that quiet," said Naruto. "Oh really?" Annabeth said in a smug tone. "Ha." The shoe was on the other foot now. "A few days ago, Talia volunteered to go with Piper on a jet back to California to visit Jason. I went on a plane for you? / you went on a plane for me?" The Grace siblings said as one while looking at each other. It got a few laughs, but Jason was smiling at his flushed sister, knowing that was big for her. His other was really lucky. And check in with Piper's dad, since there were no phones at camp and her dad wasn't the most spiritual. While she was gone, Naruto received a call via Iris from Irene, the goddess of peace and most likely Ares' least favorite sister. She once more asked him to join her in peace that he rightfully deserved. Being who he was, he kindly declined. "Ha, take that," Ares sneered. Indeed, he hated her. Unfortunately, Irene is persistent, and although apparently a pacifist, is not above playing dirty. Honestly, tempting him with assuring there would be peace in his homeland for all his life was pretty low, and actually very tempting. "Oh, that was good." Piper nodded, low blow. Seriously, Naruto was a bit upset with himself for actually thinking about it. He loved Talia and the camp way too much to seriously go through with it. "Yeah, I thought so," Annabeth said with a smirk. She pulled another knife out as the one on the target returned to her pouch. She took aim and started to pull her arm back when Naruto stopped her. "Shoulders back, throw to the side, release before completing the swing for max accuracy and speed." "That goes against physics." "It does." Annabeth nodded. "Annabeth, look at me," Naruto said, making his sister look at his amused face. "Think about what you just said and who you just said it to." "Well, Athena?" Poseidon asked smugly. "Shut up," was the goddess' retort. "Shut up," Annabeth said with a pout while he laughed. Huffing and doing as Naruto instructed, she was surprised when the kunai hit dead center. "But, how?" "Grip, aim, release. 3 fundamentals of the art of ranged weaponry," said Naruto. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a marble. "Nicked this off of my cousin Connor when his back was turned. He's not the only pickpocket in camp anymore." Naruto looked up. "Stealing from your kid?" Apollo asked with a grin as Hermes was gaping a bit. "By the way, thanks for the unintentional help when I was younger, Uncle Herm." He looked back at a tree beyond the target. "I'm going to bounce it off the branch, then use the broad side of Eclipse to bat it through the target. Watch." Naruto threw the marble and Annabeth followed it, though barely. She saw the branch shake from the impact and heard the sound of it, thanks to her trained and ingrained battle senses. Naruto's kopis expanded out of its flashlight disguise, being twisted by its wielder to make more use of the flat side of the blade, batting the marble Naruto had tossed right into the butt of the kunai that was impaled in the center. The kunai shot through with the marble right behind it. Naruto grinned and flipped the hidden switch on the back of his blade, letting it disappear back into its concealed form. "When can we take him on tour?" Leo asked. Seriously, the money they could make off this guy. I'm sure my other is thinking on it. Apollo smirked. Show off, Annabeth said, pouting a bit. Oh, come on, you have to admit that was pretty cool, Naruto said with a frown. It was. Frank nodded. 6 out of 10, Annabeth said, giving him a smirk and an iffy gesture. Tough customer. Talia whistled at the smirking Annabeth. What? That's at least an 8 easily. You only bounced the marble off of a branch. Yeah, but I hit it with the broadside of my sword. Anyone could do that if they're lucky enough. I bet Percy could do that, and he relies mostly on instinct. I know I could, Percy said with a nod. Ha, take that Naruto. Even Annabeth said so. Touché, Naruto said, defeated. Percy was skilled enough to catch that, and just lucky enough to do it the same way Naruto did. Annabeth giggled at the face Naruto made when she brought up the wet-headed wonder as Talia called Percy. Love you so much, Talia, Percy said dryly. Same here, wet-head wonder. When her giggles died down, she gained a small frown of worry, looking back at the target and wondering what happened to the boy she called, and it was an accurate name, not affectionate, no matter what the girls of Cabin 10 said, Seaweed Brain. That is an affectionate name though, no matter how you read it, Piper stated. Yep, Annabeth grinned as she looked to her beau, who grinned back. If he melted in that eruption, Annabeth would never forgive herself. Naruto caught on to the apparent track his sister's mind was on from the way she bit her lip and quickly decided to change the subject. So Bianca's been asking when she could get some extra lessons in ancient Greek. Yes, finally, the important stuff, Nico said. So me being alive isn't important? Meh, you lived. This is more important. Huh? Annabeth asked, being snapped from her train of thought. She is? How's her physical therapy going? Being stuck in bed for months no doubt killed a lot of that training muscle. Hazel frowned, worried for her half-sister. According to Will, she's getting around much better and rebuilding her muscle faster. According to Nico, she needs a wheelchair, said Naruto with a snort. His youngest charge was none too pleased to have the son of Dr. Solace in his cabin still. Nico was a bit selfish when it came to his sister. I have no problem admitting that. Nico huffed. The girls of Cabin 10 are starting to call them Wyanka, said Annabeth. Those little harpies, Hades roared as Nico looked far from pleased. Go little playa. Silence Apollo. His uncle glared at him. I was hoping for Bill, Naruto said with a frown. That would have been great material to use. You're a horrible brother, Annabeth said, her head shaking in exasperation. No, I'm a fantastic one. I pick on all of my siblings equally to show my love, said Naruto, smirking at his lil sis. Now if that isn't an awesome brother, I don't know what is. Apollo nodded. I know you aren't one. Artemis told him with a smirk. I am hurt you would even say that, lil sis, I am. Movement to his left caught his eye and his smirk turned into a grin. Ain't that right, Blackie? Seriously getting old, Naruto, said a boy that walked over to the range with Leo. This was the next in line for the role of Cabin 7 counselor, Michael Yu. Poor Michael. Annabeth frowned along with Percy. Despite his attitude, he was a good guy, sorta. He, unlike his brothers and sisters, was short and had dark hair that contrasted greatly with the cabin's usual mop of blonde. This made him the almost literal black sheep of the group. And Naruto never let him forget it, in a good way of course. The boy, however, had an attitude that more than made up for his lack of height. He got most of his mom's looks, Apollo stated, her attitude too. Seems more like yours when we were younger. Arte, shush. It faded a bit when Naruto would talk about being the shortest in his class all his life, but occasionally reared its ugly head when a member of Cabin 5 was around. Apparently, in his first year, Michael managed to get the upper hand in a fight against one of Ares' kids, resulting in a win, and Apollo was so proud he claimed Michael on the spot. I remember that, Apollo grinned to Ares, who glared back at him with a finger. Aw, come on, that's not too bad considering he calls me Squirt. Right, gringo? Leo asked as he dropped the bag next to him that revealed some safety equipment. In Michael's hand was a bow and over Leo's shoulder was a quiver that had Naruto's grin widening. Experimenting already? Hephaestus asked his son. Duh, you make those fancy arrows, I got to work on my own. The pyro boy grinned. Right-o, Squirt. You two should not be allowed to associate with one another, said Annabeth with a groan. Naruto and Leo were a dangerous combination. The camp discovered this soon enough, but it was when Leo and Michael met that shit started to really hit the fan. Oh yeah, I am liking the sound of this. Leo rubbed his hands together eagerly. Michael had ideas that had even Connor and Travis ducking in cover. Like the fart arrow, one of Michael's favorite new toys to use. He used at least 10 to get vengeance on Clarice for giving him a wedgie 2 years ago. Since then the two black sheep have been inseparable. Ares was glowering at that while the demigods were laughing at that, as did the gods. Come on, Chica, you can't hate the players for having fun while they play, Leo said with a grin. She's just mad because we stunk up cabin 6 by accident, said Michael. They what? Athena and Annabeth asked crisply. Oh. Leo winced. You deliberately shot that arrow at Malcolm, Annabeth said, glaring at the black-haired boy. Do you have proof of this alleged deliberate act? Michael asked, smirking in a manner not unlike Naruto's. Hit any members of my cabin again and there will be consequences, you. Damn right. The daughter of wisdom nodded. Whatever, Blondie. Do not call me that. Hey, let's all be civil here, Naruto said, stepping in as Annabeth clenched her fist while Michael smirked at her. The whiskered blonde looked at the elfish son of Hephaestus. So what did you bring this time? I got all your diabolical needs. Leo grinned with widespread arms. Some new arrows to try out, said Leo, grinning widely as he swung the quiver around and pulled one out like a caddy would a golf club. This baby is the new and improved, Valdez you patented net arrow. Opening a store, Leo? Piper asked him, clearly amused. So will. That I promise. The elf boy smirked back. Based off the tightening nets of the Yaoya from the Predator series, said Michael with a smirk as Naruto took the arrow and looked it over. Ooh, smart thinking. Apollo grinned, literally bouncing up and down in his seat. It was pretty big for an arrowhead, but the seams along the shaft were near invisible. He found a familiar switch at the nock and pointed it out. You get a 3-second period before it opens, said Leo. He grinned and pulled another out. This is a regular net, so the timer is a bit longer. You can tell by the feel of the nock and the fletching which is which, but the arrowheads look the same. You sound like a salesman. Piper told her friend. I could so rock a bow tie. The mechanic smirked. Light too, said Annabeth as she weighed the arrow in her hands. Bronze wiring? On the tightening net. That's for the monsters we'll have to face, said Michael with a frown. Got some grade A steel wire for the other net, but I have to find a way to make it light enough, said Leo. He grinned at the frowning son of Apollo. You here thinks it's impossible. Dude, not cool. It's not impossible, Michael said, rolling his eyes. I mean, theoretically it's possible. We just don't have the resources here to do it. We have the technology, Leo said, wagging his finger at the boy. Don't doubt me. Never said I did, Valdez. They get along really well. Annabeth muttered, oh joy. This was going to be fun. Then take the shots, Blackie, Leo said, pointing at the targets. Michael made a face at his friend and took the arrow from Naruto while walking up to the line. He readied the arrow, pulled back on the bow and took the shot after flicking the nock. The arrow flew for 3 seconds when it split apart and released the net that spun open, taking the target to the trees and crushing it to splinters in mere seconds. Leo, can you make that? Frank asked, eager to have them. Meh, when I got some free time I guess. Overkill, Annabeth said, her head shaking in disbelief. Leo was a great smith and his creations were amazing, but in Talia's, rarely used, words, damn was that scary. Even Talia is scared of my mind. Leo grinned at her as she glared at him. Like she would be scared of his creations, ha. It only got worse the longer he hung around Michael or Naruto or, gods forbid, both brothers at once. Annabeth could only imagine the hell the three would bring down upon the camp. Or their enemies. So we all agree we like the latter, right? Jason asked and got nods all around. Too slow to open, said you with a shake of his head. I'm telling you, 1 second would be enough. You kidding me? Someone on our side could get in the way, Leo said with a frown. Seriously, 3-second rule, always. Leo nodded, he knew these things. Ladies, stop fighting, you're both pretty, Naruto said, cutting Michael off before he could retort. The whiskered blonde nodded his head at the quiver. What else you got? Oh, right. Well this, Leo said, pulling a thicker arrow out that had 2 prongs with small tips that looked like they were barbed. Is the Valdez you pronged arrow. What a terrible name, Frank said. Leo scowled, shut it husky. You guys need to work on names, Naruto said with a smirk. See, Naruto agrees with me. See if I make those arrows now. I told you that was a stupid name. Shut up, Blackie, Leo said to the raven-haired son of Apollo. He glared at the older blonde and tossed the arrow to him. Here, try this on for size. Naruto caught the arrow with ease and looked it over. The fletching was black, much like the arrow, and it didn't look very aerodynamic. Humming curiously, Naruto reached behind him and unfolded his bow. That doesn't disguise itself? Leo asked, arching a brow. How the hell do you get away with carrying it, gringo? The mist favors me, Leo, Naruto said with a grin as he knocked the arrow on his bowstring. More likely wants to dry hump him, Talia said in an equally dry tone. He took aim much like his brother did, quickly, and released the arrow after flicking the switch on the nock. It flew like a normal arrow and then split in two right down the middle so that there were now two prongs. They impaled either side of the target, making Naruto's eyes widen at the accuracy of the hit. Like a giant staple, Jason stated. And you would know, right Jay? Talia teased, getting the boy to pout at that reminder. I would have thought for sure they'd veer off, said Annabeth, voicing Naruto's very concern. That's the extra weight in the arrow, Michael said. A pair of magnets that keep them aligned with each other and slow down the separation, but not too much that it will kill somebody. And if you don't flip the switch, you can still catch someone's wrist, Leo said with a grin. That's some green arrow stuff. Apollo was grinning and turned to his Smith brother. Hey Hef, could you know? You suck bro. Handy, said Naruto, making the two boys snicker while Annabeth rolled her eyes. Leo reached down to grab another arrow when he noticed the vanilla file folder at Annabeth's feet. What's this? He asked, snatching it before Annabeth could stop him. He flipped through it with an arched brow. The labyrinth? At least ask. Annabeth, this is my I care face, see? Leo said, pointing to himself as she fumed. Let me see, Michael said, rushing over to look through it with his friend. Whoa, Alcatraz is being used again? That's like from The Rock, only, I dunno, less Nicolas Cage why? And less explosive nerve gas, said Leo, making his friend nod. That would literally be unfair to the demigods. Like a tank, Talia said dryly, seriously, during the Battle of Manhattan, that was a pain in the ass. They groaned when Annabeth snatched it back, glaring at them for taking her information without permission. Aw, come on, it was just getting good. Ask next time and maybe you can look through it, Annabeth said with a scowl. See, listen to her boys. Don't. Ever. Leo countered with an impish grin that made Annabeth glare at him. Actually, maybe it's a good thing Leo found it, said Naruto, humming in thought as he folded his bow up and put it away. Talia-chan's away with Piper to tell Piper's dad that she wants to stay at camp for the summer so she can't stop me from leaving and I need to deal with something that could be very problematic if left alone. Leaving without me knowing, huh? Talia asked with crossed arms. Playing with fire Blondie. Why did Talia take Piper to California, anyway? Annabeth asked curiously, her brows furrowing in thought. Naruto grinned and tapped her on the nose. Secret, he said before she batted away his hand. Oh come on, you can't keep that a secret, too, Annabeth said with a bit of a whine. Annabeth flushed at the snickers to her whining, I like to be in the know. You're just nosy Hazel giggled as Annabeth flushed a deeper red. She had gotten him to give her the same explanation he gave Percy, Grover, Talia and the hunters last winter, but still that raised more questions than answers. Like, how was there a hidden world in the Antarctic when Apollo only flew the sun east to west? Or, what made chakra so accessible to the people of Naruto's home but not to today's demigods? Good question. Apollo rubbed his chin with a semi-serious face. She deserved to know, or at least her mother's influence demanded her to find out. No, that's definitely her mother's blood. Poseidon smirked as Athena glared at him. Watch me, said Naruto with a grin. While Annabeth pouted, Naruto turned to Leo and Michael. Okay, here's the lowdown. Michael, you know I'm not from around here. Duh, Michael said, rolling his eyes. Anyone with 2 brain cells could tell you that, Whiskers McGee. Yeah, he's too weird. Hermes snickered as Apollo glared at him. His kid was awesome weird. Ha. Nice one, Leo said with a laugh and a high five to his friend. He then looked to the scowling blonde questionably. What do you mean, not from around here? Are you legit Japanese? Euro-Asian, actually, Naruto said with a grin. That's beside the point though. I come from a civilization hidden from the modern world. We don't have cell phones or computers, or even basic cable. You poor, savage bastard. Leo yelped when Naruto bonked him on the head. See? Leo pointed out, only a savage would attack me like that. Sure, Leo. Piper rolled her eyes, it has nothing to do with calling him a savage. Exactly. Shut up. We do have, however, the ability to do incredible things like multiply and control the elements that the gods normally have sole control over. However, our lands were left alone by the gods due to sacred boundary laws created by other deities that have since passed on. Since then, We have learned to use our life force to do incredible feats, like so. Naruto turned and walked from the group to a tree, walking straight up it and walking along a branch, making Leo gape. Yes, watch the amazing super blonde as he walks up a tree, with no hands. Apollo announced like a ringmaster. The blonde then dropped from the branch and walked back like it was nothing. Pointing over his shoulder, Naruto continued where he left off. I learned to do that when I was 12. And I learned to change my appearance when I was 6. Watch, Naruto snapped his fingers and his body was engulfed in smoke. When the smoke cleared, it revealed an exact replica of Leo Valdez, smirking back at the original. He spoke in Leo's voice, further shocking the elfish smith. This is called the transformation technique in English, something all children in my homeland learn when they're young. Dude, that is so messed up. Leo shivered. It's wonderful for acting though. Apollo grinned widely. Still doesn't beat holograms, bet you can't do that, Leo said with a smirk. Actually, Naruto could, but he has too much chakra, said Annabeth, entering her lecturing pose. There's a technique that he could use, the predecessor of his favorite technique. It's called the clone technique, and shinobi use it to create holographic duplicates of themselves. How's that foot in your mouth tasting, Leo? Shut up. Leo pouted. Naruto doesn't have enough control for that and most likely never will, since it's one of the first techniques used by students, which I still have an issue with. Let it be, Annabeth, Naruto said, his eyes rolling at her disapproval of child soldiers. I really don't. Annabeth frowned as her mother nodded. It was just another reason she didn't like the Romans. He and his mother got enough of that from Lady Persephone, who disapproved of it as well, having known how precious and short childhood was. I can only wonder why? Demeter turned to her eldest brother, who threw his hands in the air. Oh please. Like it wasn't your nagging that didn't drive her up the walls. Hades countered as they continued to bicker until Hestia cleared her throat. Enough you two. Yes, sister. The shut up quickly. All I got from that was that Naruto has a large chakra, said Michael, smirking at Annabeth as her face turned red at the innuendo. Which Annabeth and Talia like? Mom, Piper shouted, red in the face along with the other girls, and the goddess glared at her for the poor taste in jokes. Leo laughed while Naruto groaned, palming himself in the face at the lame joke. It would have been funny if that innuendo hadn't been the same joke Jiraiya loved to use. Seriously, the perverted sage used it at least 300 times in a week. A week. Apollo and Hermes laughed while Artemis sniffed in distaste. Pig. It was memories like that that would remind Naruto to ask his father how he, as Minato Namikaze, stayed so pure as a shinobi like his mother said he was. The real question is, why couldn't he stay that way? Artemis asked aloud, getting a mock glare from her twin. Anyway, Naruto said, making the two smirking black sheep and the flushed daughter of Athena look at him. Somewhere in Alcatraz there's a seal that would allow the people from my home to journey here with ease, which is a big no-no. Can't have too much awesome running around after all. Then I'd look mediocre. And we can't let that happen. Talia rolled her eyes playfully. And we can't let that happen, Annabeth said with a smirk, making Naruto nod in agreement. We are so on the same wavelength, huh, Annie? Yep. Exactly, he said. They could also be recruited to work for the crooked asshole. The what? Leo asked. The father of the big three, said Michael with a smirk. He's the only one Naruto calls that. I like it, Percy grinned, it fits him well. Indeed. Poseidon grinned. Nicknames galore, huh? Leo asked with a chuckle. Alright, so what do we do? Well, I have a car and a license, Naruto said, making Leo's eyes twinkle. We're taking Soul? Leo asked. Naruto nodded and Leo whooped. Name change? Apollo asked with a pout, he liked SOL. I thought it was called SOL? Annabeth asked. Naruto renamed it, said Michael with a smirk. Like the music genre. Really? Annabeth asked flatly. Naruto sheepishly scratched the back of his head. What? It's a good name. Homonyms and everything. It's word play, he said in his own defense. It really is. Hermes smirked, I like it better than SOL nonsense. His sunny brother argued. Annabeth continued to give her brother a look until he shifted the focus off his car's name. So, do you want to help or not? Do you really have to ask? Annabeth said, smirking at him. Road trip. The demigod shouted with a good laugh. I call shotgun, Leo said. Annabeth's smirk fell into a pout and Naruto chuckled, turning to look at Michael, who smirked. Who, shotgun is mine. Curse you, Leo. Annabeth pouted. You need all the awesome you can get, Michael said. He and Leo shared a grin before slapping hands, pulling their arms back and giving each other fist bumps. Naruto arched a brow in amusement at their handshake. Isn't that sweet? The two black sheep are blood brothers. Man, Leo pouted, would have loved to meet the guy. They got along so chill-like. Alright, then to cabin 9, Naruto said with a grin. They got the car out of the cabin easily enough, but somehow Chiron caught wind of their plans. Curse you, Leo cried out, how dare he ruin the epic road trip. Naruto had to pull the centaur aside to explain that the Roman camp and the underworld itself was at risk if the connection to the hidden lands was left alone in Alcatraz. Chiron agreed with that, admittedly begrudgingly. Even if he was more attuned to Greek legends, he knew that the Roman children had to be defended. He was still a deity of protection. Athena frowned at that. Chiron was far too kind of a soul at times. That all said and done, they piled into the car and Naruto complimented Leo on the cozier seats. Can never go wrong with leather. Leo grinned, comfy as hell. Naruto turned on the soul and peeled out of the camp once again, leaving behind confused campers and bemused members of Cabin 9. They made it to the road and Naruto waited until they got on the turnpike before looking at the button on the dash labeled, H burst. It was the replacement for the Men in Black tribute button. Seriously, cool and all but the hell guys. Leo frowned as his dad nodded in agreement. Why did you call it that? Naruto asked Leo. Because your engine is a glorified H-bomb. We either go shooting off to the west or we die horribly and take thousands with us, Leo said. Leo, morbid, Nico said with a blink, seriously, that was his thing. No pressure, Michael said, pulling out his camp beads and praying to Apollo in Greek. Annabeth began to rub her father's ring on her own necklace. Oh come on, it can't be that bad, Naruto said, pressing the H-burst button. The windshield tint darkened to near pitch black and a screen flickered on in front of Naruto. The seatbelts changed, becoming padded and a bit more firm. Okay, that looks like an awesome setup for a ride. Percy whistled, that looked awesome. I know, Leo said, not being modest at all. The G-force hit them for a second before their ears popped and Leo laughed. Ha! I told Beck it would work, he said. Duh. Leo smirked, he knew his stuff after all. Wow, this is impressive, Leo, Annabeth said, looking at Naruto's heads-up display and balking at the speed being the infinity symbol. How long will this take? About 5 more minutes, Naruto said, carefully navigating them through traffic. Handles smoother, and we're not on fire yet. That's A+ for anything. Percy nodded, but Leo shrugged. It wasn't that big of a deal, for him at least. A good bonus, Michael said with a sigh of relief. Thank Apollo. You're welcome. Don't thank him yet, Blackie, Naruto said to his brother, getting a glower. Brat, Apollo frowned, well, he was actually pouting. He clicked the radio on and got a jazz tune. Ooh, I haven't heard this since I was in Georgia, looking for a missing ring of Lord Hades apostrophe ... met a real cool cat down there at a museum. Said he was there for the Egyptian exhibit. Really? Annabeth asked. She loved Egyptian lore almost as much as she did Greek, since both cultures grew so closely and yet hadn't shared the same mythos. Not really, Athena said quickly, as many of the gods dismissed the Egyptian gods rather quickly too. The demigods just looked at them with odd blinks. Yeah, what was his name? Arnold? Angus? Amos. That was it. Good ol' Amos. Really knew his jazz, Naruto said with a grin. How do you go from Arnold to, never mind, I don't want to know, Michael said. His brother's mind was a place he tried to stay away from. Seriously, Naruto thought up some strange shit when he was left alone for too long. Just like his father, look at all those movies these days. Hey, Apollo pointed a finger to Hermes, they are awesome. Suor. The only jazz I like was killed off by Michael Bay, Leo said with a frown. Worst. Transformers. Ever. It wasn't that bad. Apollo waved off. What are you kidding me? Naruto asked. Bumblebee pissed on a guy. The hip-hop, jive speaker died in the movie, Leo said with a glare. Jazz made the movie, and like a racist, Bay killed him. Thus, worst Transformers ever. Well, when you put it like that. Apollo started to sweat as he got some looks. Alright, I'll give you that. But I'll bet that the sequel will be better, Naruto said with a smirk. Maybe they'll have Marky Mark in it or something. I'd love to see that. Hermes grinned along with some of the other demigods. I'll work on it, Apollo said. Wahlberg? Doubt it, Michael said with a snort. They'll be lucky if Fox does the second movie. Megan Fox, now that's a babe, Leo said with a dreamy grin. Michael dropped his scowl and joined him. Oh, yeah. The guys said with dreamy smiles and yelped when their respected other swatted them. She's just a face. And a daughter of Aphrodite, but that's aside from the point, Annabeth said, her eyes rolling. Megan used to go to camp and then left, her career picking up keeping her away. She was one of the lucky few that could have a normal life. She is? Percy said in surprise. Yep. Annabeth nodded as Percy just said wow. Such a hottie, isn't she? Aphrodite smirked. Let's hope she doesn't end up like most actresses her age. Artemis commented as her rival glared at her for that. And they destroyed the Hoover Dam. Not cool. Oh, here we go. Percy muttered. She ranted for hours on that, cursing movie for even showing that scene at all. To be fair, that was Megatron, Naruto said to his sister. And it wasn't really destroyed. A few chunks out here and there, but it still held together. Still though, Annabeth said, her lips pursing together as she pouted. I know, right? Annabeth nodded to her other. That's sacrilegious to Cabin 6, yes I know, Naruto said with his eyes rolling as he changed the station. Ah, now here we go. Some nice easy listening. Metallica is easy listening? Michael asked in disbelief. He's got a screw loose. Talia smirked. Yes, Naruto agreed, glaring at his brother in the rearview mirror and daring him to defy the truth of his words. So, Alcatraz? How are we getting in? Michael asked, shifting in his seat. He was a bit unnerved by the look Naruto gave him. What is it with you guys and overcomplicating things? Annabeth asked. Apollo does that all the time. Arte, I have ideas, I overthink. Or don't think enough. Well, you are just being hurtful today, aren't you? Naruto gave a quick sidelong glance to her while Michael blinked in confusion. Naruto, Talia told me about that quest on Valentine's Day. Great. Talia turned a bit pink as some snickered at her. And Michael, like you've never rambled about some song for hours on end? Shut up, my mind goes places, Michael said, frowning at Leo for snickering at him. He crossed his arms with a huff. Like you're one to talk, Chase. Hypocrite. Apollo nodded as Annabeth gave him a dull glare. I think of every scenario, sure I overlook some, but I've thought of them already, Annabeth said, turning around to glare at the boy. That had no hubris in it at all, Leo said, smirking. My other brings up a good point. Shut up, Leo. Shut up, Leo. Annabeth flushed as she was laughed at. Percy just wrapped an arm around her shoulder, holding in his laugh. All right. Annie, you've already made a plan. So what do we do? Naruto asked as they passed through Texas. I thought it'd be obvious, Annabeth said, getting odd looks. Let's see what wise girl has for us today. Percy grinned. I will never live this down, Naruto said as he shuffled around on the ferry to Alcatraz. A tour group. Why didn't I think of that? The group erupted into laughter at the simply idea. Athena was smirked at Apollo, so simple, yet oh so perfect. He just gave her a dry look back. Because you were thinking along the lines of an awesome badass. Awesome badasses don't do obvious, Leo said, getting a fist bump from Michael for the accuracy of his statement. I got him there. The elf boy snickered with the others. Would you both quiet down? Now when we get back to the prison, Naruto will cover us with his clones and their disguise technique, Annabeth said, confident in her plan. As always. Yep, the blonde said with a smirk to her bow. Henge no jutsu, Naruto said helpfully. Then we split up and searched the prison. There shouldn't be any monsters, but we can't be too sure, Annabeth said. After we deal with the seal, if it's paper let me know. If it's just on the stone, break it, Naruto said, getting a nod from the others at his warning about paper seals and booby traps that are near undetectable. Hee, booby. Ares snickered with Apollo and Hermes as the other rolled their eyes at their maturity. Right. After we do that, regroup and Naruto will take us back to the car, Annabeth said. Which I'll drive because apparently, the teleporting is wiping Mr. Perfect over there out. It'll be easier than converting my toaster to a radio, Leo snapped his fingers and engulfed his thumb in fire. I'm ready whenever you guys are. Team Awesome, break, Apollo said, grinning as Annabeth and Leo were smirking at the team name. It fit pretty well for them. Same here, Michael said, patting the quiver hidden in his backpack. Just try not to be jealous. He and Leo shared a high five while Annabeth shook her head and Naruto laughed quietly at their antics. Their adrenaline was at full mark when the ferry docked and Naruto swiftly summoned a few clones to replace them in the group. They split up, Naruto and Michael going up while Annabeth and Leo went down into the depths of the prison. Let's split up, gang, Talia said as Annabeth rolled her eyes. Naruto easily ran to the top of Alcatraz ruins and made several clones to search the premises, leaving Michael to use the Valdez crafted climbing arrow, based off of one made by Hephaestus for Naruto's personal use. He pulled his collapsible bow out of his pack. Why Apollo's kids never thought of asking for these before Naruto's arrival always came to the front of his mind. He's right. Artemis nodded as she looked to her brother. My hunters can summon and vanish their bows at will. Why do your children have to carry it at full height? Because, I don't know. Apollo shrugged, they just do. Excuses. Well, whatever. The sun god pouted as his twin smirked at him in triumph. And prepared the arrow. Aim, flick and pray that the wall doesn't crumble, Michael said to himself quietly, shooting the arrow up to the sketchy-looking wall. It embedded itself in the rock and Michael grabbed the rope, experimentally tugging it and sighing when the wall stayed intact. Thank Olympus. Now, just like the rock wall at camp, only no lava. That's a good thing. Piper nodded, that lava pit was scary. Michael climbed up the wall slowly, slipping once and looking back down over the cliff. Poseidon's ocean crashed against the island wall, roaring in its own way as it did and scaring Michael more than any monster possibly could have. He was not a swimmer and did not enjoy the sight before him. Swallowing, Michael steeled himself and resumed his climb. Does he want a floaty? Screw you, Ares. Meanwhile, in the lowest parts of the prison, Leo ducked around a corner, pressing himself against the wall and holding his hand in the shape of a gun, the tip of his finger on fire. Really, Leo? Jason asked dryly. Yep. Dunu nah, Leo said, peering around the wall, using his handgun to check his surroundings. Dunu nah. Do. I've so done that. Percy admitted as all the guys, minus Jason, admitted to this. I don't see why. Jason pointed out. Dude, you have no soul. Leo shook his head, getting a glare for that remark. Leo dropped his hand with a sigh. This is boring. Man, I hope Annabeth is having more fun than I am. A few floors below him, Annabeth was in awe of the architecture of the original structure being reused. Of course you would get distracted. What? It's very interesting, Talia. Plus I never got to look at it, you know, freaky snake lady trying to kill us and all. It was much like the labyrinth, only less mystical. She could understand why it opened out here now, though. She shook her head, trying to get back on track. Why does this place have to be so fascinating? Annabeth asked with a groan. Why couldn't the ninjas have chosen a burger joint or something? Because that would be boring, Frank said. Why would ninjas come out of a burger joint? For the burgers, duh. Talia rolled her eyes, it was so simple. The blonde daughter of Athena just hoped the others were having better luck. Nothing in the east quadrant either, Naruto said, frowning. He looked to the west at the sound of a raven cawing. He made 2 clones. Find Annie and Leo and then get back to me. You got it. The clones said, nodding before vanishing in swirls of leaves, using the slower, but chakra-saving Shunshine instead of the Hiraishin. Naruto ran to the source of the call, joining up with Michael swiftly. Hey, my kid finds it first. Apollo cheered, getting Athena and Hephaestus to roll their eyes. Fast response, Michael said, blinking in confusion when a clone appeared and then dispelled. What was that? Clones retain information other clones get, Naruto said with a grin. Dude, Cabin 6 must hate you. You have no idea. Annabeth pouted. I know, right? Michael led Naruto to the seal, letting the blonde crouch down and examine the relatively large tarp of paper pinned to the wall. There was one glaring part of the seal that had Naruto's eyebrows furrowed together in thought. It was a spiral, much like the one on his stomach, a staple of the Uzumaki clan seal makers. He didn't know anyone alive in the Konohan forces that was able to make this, but the ones who he did know were dead. Suspicious. Apollo rubbed his chin. So most of the masters of the art are dead? Athena stated, besides that Kushina woman. Seems so, Annabeth said with a frown. It was so sad when masters of an art die out. Good thing Naruto had learned from one and was passing the knowledge out to her other. She was sure to keep it alive along with Naruto. Or when Naruto and other Talia had kids. Oh, I don't feel so good, Leo said, groaning as he and Annabeth appeared in a flash of yellow light. Annabeth looked a little green herself. Michael took it upon himself to help the two out while Naruto continued to examine the seal. Once she saw what he was doing, Annabeth joined him. Like the eager learning beaver she is. Talia. Very impressive. It's a vacuum seal layered atop a homing matrix, allowing the users to teleport to and from point A, most likely Konoha, to point B, here, Annabeth said. Then there's this protection seal, probably to keep the shinobi intact during transmission. Everyone just turned to Annabeth, who was just grinning haughtily. I'm just that awesome. But you just started learning it or something, right? Percy said. So? The blonde asked with a blink. Never mind. His girlfriend was way too smart times, it could be scary. Very astute, but it's an attraction seal, not a vacuum, Naruto said. Annabeth got it wrong? Piper said in mock shock. Say it isn't so, Talia cried out as the blonde architect flushed at that. He then pointed to the seal Annabeth spoke of seconds ago. And this isn't a protection seal, but a memory seal. This one is designed to recognize the mass of specific atoms within a single person's body. Yeah, Annabeth, Piper rolled her eyes, it was so obvious. Shut up, McLean, like you know anything. And you do? Shut up. Annabeth pouted and crossed her arms. That's not possible, is it? Annabeth asked, her eyes wide. Super Ninja Annie. Quiet, Talia. The teasing was getting annoying. For the logical, no. For an Uzumaki or an Uzumaki's apprentice? Child's play, Naruto said. So it will be child's play for you later on, Annabeth, cheer up. Leave me alone, Hazel. He pat Annabeth on the head and ripped the middle of the tarp. B-. Athena gaped as Annabeth gasped. The fiend. It's like the Sphinx all over again. Percy muttered as he was glared at. Annabeth refused to acknowledge that event. B-? That's not fair, Annabeth said with a whine. I know. Annabeth nodded, she was a good student. She deserved a higher grade. Two seals wrongly described and overlooking Uzumaki handiwork, Naruto said with a smile. I think it's fair enough. He's got you there, Apollo stated as Annabeth fumed at the error, curses. Grade grubber, Michael said under his breath, Leo snickering. Why, you little. She is a bit of a teacher's pet, he said in agreement. The two black sheep ignored the glare Annabeth sent their way. Leo. Annabeth shot him a look, but he just shrugged. You cannot deny it, girl. Humph. Annabeth turned her head to the side with a huff. Shut up, Valdez. Make me, Chase. Oh, I can. Witch it, girl, you might just get burned. That was lame, Leo. Piper told him. I know, sorry. The mechanic sighed out, it just popped into his head. Naruto ignored their squabbling as he folded the now ruined tarp up. He had more questions than answers with this discovery and would have to talk with his mother about it sooner or later. Yes, more than just a flashback, I want to see this woman in action, Artemis stated as her brother was grinning at the thought. There were two possible explanations for the seal's strange design, either it was a formula Konoha dug up from the history books or someone, an old Uzumaki apprentice or something, was using his clan's mark without his say-so. Ooh, they're in trouble. Hermes whistled, using something of a family brand like that was a big no-no. If that were the case, then if Madara, or worse Kronos, recruited them, the camps wouldn't have to worry about the labyrinth. True, Athena frowned, if the enemy got a seal user on their side, it would be terrible. Alright, we've got what we came for. Let's get back before Chiron has a heart attack or something, Naruto said, standing up and turning Michael around to shove the folded seal in his backpack. Why am I carrying it? Michael asked. Because you're the pack mule, Blackie. Leo snickered. Because I said so, now everyone hold hands, Naruto said, smirking as Leo and Annabeth shared a small glare before begrudgingly holding hands. See, I'm not that bad. How much grease is on that hand? Ouch, brainchild, ouch. They vanished in a flash of yellow, leaving behind not a trace of themselves while the mist encircled the tour group they traveled with to Alcatraz, erasing all memories of the four and allowing the clones to dispel. Hecate does her best work for someone she has a thing for. Hera smirked at Talia, who looked mildly irked. Little did the four demigods know that one more person had used the seal prior to their arrival. Damn it, ninjas, leave us alone, Percy cried out jokingly. Kakashi Hatake was a member of Onbu, and his skills weren't as rusty as he made them appear. The one-eyed Jonin shook his head in amusement. Well, Kakashi is cool, Hermes stated as everyone nodded to that, he was. At least it wasn't one of the other guys, now they would be a pain. He was so glad he scooped this mission up before a more determined Chunin could take a grab for it. Reaching into his pouch, Kakashi pulled out his small guide to the United States and settled down on his perch atop Alcatraz guard tower. Now, where are the t-shirt shops? Apollo asked jokingly as some laughed. I think I'm going to be here for a while, he said, flipping the book open to where he left off. New York City, the Big Apple. Interesting. Wonderful, Zeus groaned, he's coming here. Meh, Poseidon shrugged, I like him. I wouldn't mind meeting him. I bet he somehow finds the camp. Leo snickered. Percy grinned, that would be awesome. 24. Naruto returned to camp just as his father started to dip out of the sky towards the west. He dropped Annabeth, Leo and Michael off, and before Chiron could stop him, sped over to the airport, intent on picking his no doubt traumatized girlfriend up. Ha ha, Talia said dryly as some sniggered at her. While he waited for their flight, Naruto lazed around at the airport, going to the fountain occasionally to check in on camp. One time it was Annabeth who answered, asking him about the seal and how he knew it was Uzumaki work. That made him laugh and he tapped the side of his nose, making her pout and end the call. Annabeth huffed at that with a pout, crossing her arms as she got a few amused glances. The second call he made, around 8 or 9ish, had him talking to Will about doing a concert the next night to celebrate Michael's birthday and to help Bianca get back into the swing of camp. Aw, that's sweet of him, Aphrodite giggled as Apollo whistled at that for his little player. Hades and Nico on the other hand simmered a bit. After a bit of teasing Will about Wyanka, Naruto ended the call and looked to his left, where a young boy was looking at him. He had brown hair and his equally brown eyes were wide as he looked at him. "What did you just do?" he asked. "Another demigod?" Percy asked, since the kid just clearly saw through the mist. "Maybe," Annabeth said with that thoughtful look on her face. "Do you believe in magic?" Naruto asked. The boy nodded and Naruto knelt down in front of him. "Well, what do you think I did?" "Magic?" the boy asked. Naruto winked and held a finger to his lips. "Don't tell anyone, okay?" He nodded and Naruto smiled. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a drachma he had sealed away. "Here, maybe one day you can do magic, too." Apollo rubbed his chin. "This seems important somehow." "You really think so?" the boy asked. "I'm usually pretty good at this sort of thing." "Hey, is that your dad?" Naruto asked, looking past some other waiting people at the approaching man that looked a good portion like the boy in front of him. When the boy turned to look away, Naruto bent the light around him and left that spot for now. "Cool exit for the possible demigod?" "Check." "Oh, without a doubt." Leo grinned, "So swag." Now, to see if he could get a name. "Carter." "Carter, what did I tell you about wandering off?" the boy's father asked. Carter told his father about the magic man that had his dad hurrying off like he had a monster on his trail. "I swear I've seen that guy before." Hades mused with narrowed eyes. Now where was it? The poor confused boy was asking him what was wrong while the departing man pulled him along. "Carter, huh? Cool name." Naruto thought with a grin as he reappeared back by the fountain. The blonde son of Apollo couldn't help but feel that he'd seen the man before somewhere. "See? Naruto agrees with me." Hades noted towards his employee. Shrugging it off, he went over to the arrivals board and searched for the flight coming from California. He snorted as soon as he found their flight. "Gate J1, what are the odds?" "One must honestly wonder." Poseidon mockingly said as Zeus glowered at him. So he had some authority over an airport, so what? Like Mr. All My Children Can Operate Anything on the Ocean could say anything. After going to the waiting area by the gate for Talia and Piper's flight's luggage pickup, Naruto plopped down in a chair and leaned back, relaxed. He had an hour to kill still and his mind drifted to, oddly enough, Percy. "Thanks," the son of Poseidon said dryly. He wondered what was taking the wet-headed wonder so long to come back. Maybe if he took Zephyr out to scour the area around Mount St. Helens he could find a hint as to where the son of Poseidon would be. Or find a charred corpse. Percy gaped at that while Annabeth herself blanched at the very thought. "I don't think there would be anything left of him to be honest," Hephaestus said, getting some looks. "What?" he asked with a blink. But he felt that wasn't going to be the case. About an hour later, Talia was clinging to the armrests of her seat on the large jet. There was a piece of gum keeping her from biting her tongue off and helping her adjust to the cabin pressure in the aircraft. "You look catatonic," Nico said in fascination. "Shut it, D'Angelo." Next to her, peering out the window with a smile on her face was Piper. She had a blast seeing her dad and hanging out at Camp Jupiter with Jason. "I'm sure she did." Leo grinned at her, as Piper flushed and hugged Jason's arm, who smiled back at her. She took a glance at Talia and bit her lip to keep from snickering when the older girl jumped at the captain speaking to the passengers. "This is just priceless." Percy snickered, but Annabeth came to Talia's rescue. "Funny, when we were on one, you were just like that." "I had every reason to be." "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We will be landing momentarily and I'd like to thank all of you for riding on what was my smoothest flight yet." The pilot's chipper attitude had Talia growling. "So she makes planes safe, I see." Leo mused and looked at Jason. "I wonder what would happen if you become a jet pilot?" "He would be the best." Zeus boasted with a smirk as the gods rolled their eyes at that while Jason gave a sheepish smile to the praise. Well, at least we know that you can handle flying if it involves visiting your baby brother, Piper said with a smile. Talia just glared at her. I will shave you bald, she said through gritted teeth. Oh, I was just teasing. So extreme. Piper rolled her eyes. And cruel. The Lady of Doves huffed, shaving her baby bald. Oh, Talia was lucky she loved Nalia. You deserve it. The hunter stated with a glare. Catching a glimpse out the window of their descent, Talia sat back in her seat, closed her eyes and started to take deep calming breaths. The landing is just the worst part. Valdez. So help me. Message received, Piper said as they landed. The two demigoddesses got out of the death machine as Talia dubbed it. It isn't a death machine. Zeus muttered as Ares laughed. I'd like to see that though. Hey, hef no. TCH. Jackass? Hey Pod, I'm Kettle, how's life? And quickly exited the terminal to where Naruto said would be waiting for them. As they entered the terminal, he stood upon spotting them, giving them both a bright smile and waving them over. Talia hurried over to him, smiling lightly back at his beaming face. As he opened his mouth, most likely to ask how their trip was, Talia cut him off by grabbing both sides of his face and pulling him down into a heated lip-locking kiss. Go Talia. Use some tongue. Annie. Piper blinked at the sight along with the confused, but welcoming, Naruto. The blonde in question quickly relaxed into the kiss with his girlfriend and wrapped his arms around her. Aphrodite giggled, how bold, Talia. Such a public display. I knew you had it in you. Talia was grumbling at that with pink cheeks. Ahem. Piper coughed into her fist to gain the couple's attention. Please save it for the bedroom. Shame they haven't gone that far, yet. Aphrodite, so help me. Artemis glared at the love goddess, who tried to look innocent. It didn't really work. The two broke apart, blinking in surprise at all of the attention on them. A few women were smiling at them while a few men looked a bit annoyed, like they would have to top that later or something. Yeah, guys, you will. Hazel snickered. Talia flushed lightly and Naruto scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Point taken, pipes. So how was the flight? He asked as he rested his arm over Talia's shoulders. Don't call me that, Piper said. You so know he will, forever, right? Leo told her with a smirk as Piper pouted. I figured. It was all right for the most part. That's good, Naruto said, turning to Talia with a smile. And did you enjoy the flight? Talia lightly elbowed him in the side. Shut up. It was a one-time thing. Says you, sister, Talia snorted, I will never get on one of those things. Aw, really? I've always wanted to go into an airplane. One time thing, Talia said sternly. She crossed her arms. Never getting on that death machine or anything like it again. Fine, Naruto said, sighing in defeat. There went that plan for getting on the Mile High Club during his already planned Hawaii trip. Oh, I'll mile is high for him all right, Talia said in a menacing tone. He loved those islands and their waves. So how did your trip go after getting off the death machine? Talia huffed through her nose. Well, after we got off the damn thing, we managed to find Piper's dad in the crowded LAX terminals. Which shouldn't be awkward at all. Piper nodded mockingly. Piper. Tristan McLean said with a smile as the father and daughter reunited with a hug. Talia walked up to the two, her bag slung over her shoulder. I thought you would be coming by cab, how and why were you in New York? Piper struggled to come up with something. Definitely not awkward. Leo nodded, but got a slap to the arm. Ow, girl, you hit hard. Mr. McLean. Talia got the man's attention and used her lessons in mist control via Naruto. You'd think Hikari would have fudged her up on her attempt, Apollo stated, getting a smirk from Heir and a grumble from Talia. I knew that was a good idea. Sorry, Talia-chan. You can continue. Thanks. To alter Tristan's memory a bit. The actor's eyes glazed over a bit before he shook his head and smiled at the girls. So, brainwashing my dad. I had to. Still. Leo snorted, you kinda gave him a mind wipe drink, didn't you? Leo. Piper complained as Talia rolled her eyes. Hypocrite. So what made you guys decide this was a good meeting place? Tristan asked. I mean, it's a long drive from my hotel just to come here and wait for you two to show up. Sorry, Mr. McLean. Piper just wanted to show off how well the camp is doing for her. It's only been a few days and so far not a penny is out of place, Talia said, getting a glower from Piper. Piper gaped at Talia, who was whistling innocently. Leo was snickering though. Really? The problem is taken care of? Tristan asked, surprised and smiling. Dad. Yep. Been a quick learner this one. I hope you both know that I can hear you, Piper said, pouting at the two as they walked and talked. I just want to make sure that the camp is doing everything that was promised, Tristan said. Isn't that sweet of him, Piper, Talia told her with a smirk as the daughter of love pouted. He patted his daughter on the head and smiled. Are you making friends? Yes. She's unfortunately one of them, Piper said with a pout to Talia, who shrugged. It was the first thing she thought of. Wasn't her fault. Piper was the convict in training. Convict, huh? I'd try my best. Talia smiled shamelessly. Anyone else? Well, Talia's brother is nice, Piper said, her words making her father purse his lips slightly. Well, that seems to be a future issue. Leo commented, getting Jason to look uneasy at that. Talia arched a brow, but before she could comment, the daughter of Aphrodite continued. There's also Leo and Silena. And Naruto, of course. He's kind of crazy, though. I've met his father. I'm not too surprised, Tristan chuckled. 'Cause we both so awesome. Apollo smiled that dazzling smile. Anthony Lyer is very eccentric when it came to his work. He always seems to be bouncing between projects at a speed I just can't comprehend. The mind of a squirrel on coffee, Talia said, fairly accurate. Artemis nodded as Apollo looked stunned. Ouch, why are the lil sis so mean? Someone has too, his twin told him bluntly. Making a mental note to keep Naruto away from coffee. For life. Now that is just cruel. Leo pouted, since Piper and Jason do the same thing to him. I wouldn't go that far. He's eccentric, Tristan said. They made small talk, Tristan asking more about the teachers at camp, pleased to hear about the good curriculum and the possible scholarships offered. He was also forthcoming with some information about the next gig Naruto was signed on for. Ooh, what? What? The sun god said in excitement. What? Naruto said with wide eyes. I signed on for one film. That's what I thought, Talia said with a frown as she looked at him and slugged him hard in the arm. That's for not reading the fine print, idiot. That sneaky Roman bastard, Naruto said under his breath as he rubbed his arm. I know how you feel, nephew. Athena nodded, getting eye rolls from everyone. Hope you enjoy the role of Barry Allen, whoever that is, Talia said, making Naruto blink before he grinned. What? Hermes said, glaring at his brother, one of my kids should get that slot. Hell, he was based off me. Apollo snorted, I beat you in a race, plus which of your kids could act? Shut up. On second thought, I might have to thank that sneaky Roman bastard. No, hate him, Athena exclaimed. Why? No reason, just continue Talia-chan. You'd better tell me later, Talia said, before going back to her story. Yeah, she wants to see him in the suit. Nico sneakered, getting punched by Talia. Ow. Don't hesitate to call me or Kathy, Piper, Tristan said as he gave his daughter a hug outside the small gas station. Talia had once more used the mist to make him think he was dropping them off at a bus stop. She was getting good practice with the mist as of late. He and his demigod daughter broke apart and Tristan gave his heartthrob smile to Talia. Thanks for helping out. Tell Naruto I said hi and that he should drop a line to me soon. It really is a dazzling one, Aphrodite sighed as Ares bared his teeth. Sure thing, Mr. McLean, Talia said, averting her eye slightly from his smile. He gave Piper another hug and a kiss on the head before he got back in his car and drove off, honking twice as the demigoddesses waved goodbye. The two girls shared a look before turning and beginning the familiar trek to the tunnel that would lead them to the Roman demigod sanctuary. In a short amount of time, they found themselves standing outside the gates, Talia and the Roman god of boundaries exchanging glares. Piper stood to the side, watching as the two argued. Jason groaned, only you would argue with a statue. God, Talia corrected him, statue god. Talia was merely defending them as Terminus called them lowly Greek children that didn't know the difference between a faun and a fern. He loves to pick fights. Frank noted as Hazel nodded in agreement. Before the shouting match could really get heated, the gates opened and the two praetors walked out. Talia, Jason said, elated at seeing his sister on much safer terms. I take it the quest was a success? Finally, some sib bonding. Talia smiled, wishing she had more time to do it in this dimension to be honest. Yep. We're here to deliver some information we found on the way back to camp, Talia said, hugging the boy and ignoring Terminus' grumblings. And to play catch up. We barely got to talk on that quest. Stupid ninjas and all. Stupid ninjas. Talia pouted. Jason hugged her back with a laugh. Yeah, well. What can you do? When they broke away, Jason and Piper shared a greeting while Talia and Reyna greeted each other civilly. Suor, said everyone as Talia grumbled, stupid Roman girl. Liar. Piper coughed into her hand. Talia leveled a glare at the girl and Naruto blinked in confusion. He hummed for a second in thought before shaking his head with a sigh of acceptance. Well, hopefully they did become civil while he wasn't present. I doubt that. Shut up, fish boy. Nah, don't wanna. He and Piper shared a look, knowing he'd get an unabridged story from her some other time. Little traitor. The hunter glared at the charm speaker, who shrugged in return. Turnabout is fair play. Zing, Apollo laughed, getting Talia to pout. Talia continued after deciding that she'd deal with Piper later. Ha, busted. Talia smirked at Piper, who blanched. Oh. So anyway, Jason and the other praetor, Reyna, greeted us. Welcome back to Camp Jupiter, daughter of Jew Zeus, Reyna said. She looked a bit disgruntled at using the Greek name for the god of thunder. You as well, daughter of Ve Aphrodite. You can just see the pain in her eyes. Leo snickered as Jason gave a light laugh to that. Thanks, Talia said, leveling the girl with a look. She turned to Jason and smiled. Didn't really get a clear tour last time. What with all the excitement of the attack taking place? I hope that Choji guy healed, Piper said behind her. I don't, Reyna said, frowning. Me either, Ares said as Mr. D scowled. Shut up, Ares. Hee. Honestly, me either, Jason said. He had the nerve to attack my camp. Got what he deserved. Yeah, but he was under orders, Piper said. Does that forgive what happened in World War II? Reyna countered, getting Piper to begrudgingly agree. That was smooth. Leo whistled as Piper scowled at Reyna getting one up on her. Anyway, about that tour? Talia asked, looking at her brother in an attempt to change the subject. We got a better tour of Camp Jupiter this time around. Actually having enough time to have a full one instead of stopping to eat, Talia said, making Naruto frown at the reminder of her anger at him. She caught this and gave him a small apologetic look that he countered with a reassuring smile. His arm over her shoulders pulled her just a bit closer and Talia continued. See? All is well with love and a little drama, the love goddess sighed out happily. So instead of ending with the mess hall, we ended at the gladiator arena. Best thing ever. Dionysus commented with a smile. Sounds fun. Fun, yeah, I suppose it was fun, Talia said, smirking while Piper shook her head. You got into a fight, didn't you? Talia just had an innocent look on her face, it was possible though. And this is where we do gladiatorial combat, Reyna said professionally, gesturing down to the dirt-covered ground where two sons of Mars, according to Jason anyway, were doing battle with shields and swords. Go at it boys. Ares cheered on, Frank joining him a little for his brothers. Not bad, Talia said, humming in thought. I wonder how good it is compared to our camp's combat training. It's vastly superior, Reyna said before Jason could speak. You Greeks may have a decent culture, but we are warriors through and through. Bitch say what? Talia glared. Ooh, Percy whistled, now she went and done it. Oh really? Talia asked, feeling challenged personally by that and a bit of anger burned within her. Then let me test that with a fight. Destroy them, Talia. Athena supported her half-sister in a second. I don't know, Talia, Jason said carefully, getting a look from his sister. I mean, it's just that with your heritage, I don't want this to affect our camp's relationship. It's shaky at best with the Senate divided on the issue. Do it. Athena pressed as the gods rolled their eyes. I see no harm in it, Reyna said, getting a baffled look from Jason. She looked at him and shrugged. What? Naruto has our support and we may not rule Jupiter solely, but we do have a larger sway than the Senate when it comes to the upcoming war. It's just a friendly bit of competition. Oh, real friendly. Talia grinned, wondering what Roman noob she would be smocking. I'm still not sure. Oh, come on Jay. Have some faith in your sister, Talia said, before frowning at him. Or do you think I can't handle it? Dude, keep it zipped. Leo told him. Duh, Jason said in return, he was not that stupid. Might want to let her do it, Jason. Piper supplied with a sigh. She's got that look in her eyes and this isn't an argument you can win. If it helps, we can go over the documents we found while we watch. Together, alone, holding hands and playing footy. Leo teased the couple, who gave blushing smiles. There you go. Something to occupy you during the fight. You did like to investigate things, like that stapler, for instance. Oh you, Jason stammered as Talia and Piper snickered as Leo laughed hard at that. Jason just crossed his arms, so not cool. Shut up, Talia, Jason said, pouting at the smirk Talia gave him. He knew the story of his scar thanks to Naruto, who learned it from Talia, you told him. Jason gasped out as Talia laughed louder. Now, I hate you. Oh man, this is just priceless. And now it was apparently teasing material. Fine. Excellent. I'll go get everything set up, Reyna said with a small smile. So you actually fought in the arena? Who'd you fight? Naruto asked. He wished he could have seen her fight. It probably would have been awesome. I was no doubt, Talia said smugly as Percy rolled his eyes. So full of herself. I know. Nico nodded. What was that, boys? Nothing. The boys of the big three said with smirks. Someone from the first cabin, Talia said, shrugging. Cabin? Jason asked her as Talia shrugged, same thing to her to be honest. Cohort, Talia, Piper said, correcting her before Naruto could. He grinned at her and she flushed. Little cabin 6 wannabe. Shut up, Naruto. Make me, Pipes. I hate him. Piper pouted. Talia smirked as the two began their small banter, recalling her fight silently. You're sure about this? Jason asked for the umpteenth time as Talia stretched her arms across her chest. Her spear was stabbed into the ground beside her and she was waiting for her lazy opponent to show up. A lazy Roman? Hazel asked questioningly. Say it isn't so. Frank Mock fretted with a small snicker. Yes, Jason. I'm sure. Now get out of here before I decide to kick your butt, Talia said teasingly, making him frown. You can't kick my butt. Please, I could own you. I can fly. And you'll be giving me a moving target for my bow, so shut up. Jason just grumbled at that. Stupid sister. Oh, I can so kick your butt, little bro. Cannot. Can so, Talia said, smirking. I've got a ninja boyfriend. Sure he's an idiot, but there's some perks to it. Quite a lot of them actually. Proof is in the boy toy. Aphrodite grinned as Talia smirked, making Jason pout. Shut up, Jason said as he groaned. The last thing he needed to think about was his sister and Naruto as a couple. He tried not to think about what they did together. That damn health class from last month was fresh in his mind. Aw, did Jason learn the birds and the bees? Go drown, Leo, Jason said firmly as the Latino laughed. Then beat it before you lose a seat, Talia said, looking back at the opposite doors. She grabbed her spear and called her shield out. Aegis. Athena let out a dark laugh that honestly creeped some of the gods out. The arena was slowly filling and Jason regrettably left the floor when the opponent doors creaked open. He hovered up to where Piper sat and landed next to her before sitting down. How many times did I say I don't approve of this? Like 8 times already? Piper said with a small amused smile. I'm sure it won't be too bad. Talia's not going to kill anyone. Yeah, all friendly and stuff. I don't believe you, Jason said with a deadpan. It's not her opponent I'm worried. Abo, what in the name of Neptune? Jason asked, gaping as Reyna walked out, wielding her spear and decked out in full Predator armor. The audience was silent for a moment until Leo spoke. Shit just got real. Athena was beaming. Perfect. Okay, scratch that. She might kill Reyna, Piper said under her breath. Understatement. The demigods muttered as Talia seemed pleased by this. What? Nothing, Jason. Let's just have some ambrosia and nectar on standby, Piper said. If there was one thing she quickly picked up on, it was the healing qualities of ambrosia and nectar. Talia explained that to her in Texas, and on the flight back to California, she looked it up some more. So they could eat a bit of the food of the gods and get healed. Cool. Too bad they could wind up as melted stains on the carpet if they ate too much, if the legends were anything to go by. What are you doing out here? Talia asked, not really minding that Reyna was her opponent. It was still surprising, though. Catfight. Leo cheered, along with the other young male gods, as the women frowned at that word. It was just a spar. I'm here to ensure that Roman combat training is superior to Greek combat training, Reyna said, giving a small confident smirk. And then get your butt whoop. I don't know, Talia, Jason said, Reyna's tough, I mean really tough. Ninja boyfriend training? Okay, so maybe it won't end as bad as I think it will be, Jason said but grinned. Boyfriend, huh? Shut up. I'm going to enjoy this far more than I should, Talia said, grinning as she lifted her shield. Bring the pain, who? Ares cheered. Finally, a fight scene. Her smile widened as Reyna's confident smirk faltered a bit when Talia's shield glared at her, a visible shiver going down her spine. Already the daughter of Zeus had the advantage. Indeed she does, go Talia. Athena openly cheering for the girl. Aegis, do your work. As will I, Reyna said once she recovered her composure. She spun her spear in her hand and brought her own simple shield up at the ready. No fatal blows? Even I know that isn't going to happen, Percy said dryly as Annabeth nodded. I make no promises, but if you want the handicap, Talia said, grinning as they circled each other. Ah, battle banter, Apollo sighed with a smile, Always good to see. Reyna's eyes hardened. It is you who should be asking for the handicap. And she's pissed. Jason groaned, great. Really? Indeed. Then let's test your theory, Talia said, rushing forward with the charging leap that Naruto had shown her. Her shield collided with Reyna's and the Romans in the stands released roars of approval. The two girls' faces were inches away, both glaring into the other's eyes. Reyna's helmet-covered head reared back and slammed forward, sending Talia stumbling back to a knee. TCH, of course she armors up, Athena sneered, too afraid to get hurt? She mocked. Athena, Hestia said, comments to a minimal, please. Yes, and Hestia. Thank you. Only the arrogant and foolish rush to their deaths, Reyna said, smirking at Talia as she growled. Greeks are overly emotional. Quite easy to guess you'd make the first move. Oh wonderful, Hades groaned, palming his face, since Grace was like her father. Better than being a stupid little girl who's in over her head, Talia said as she got back to her feet. Reyna's smirk fell into a small scowl once more and Talia's lips quirked upward. Bring it, bitch. And the bitch line has been thrown. Hermes shook his head, it's all downhill from here. I am loving this, Leo grinned, eating more popcorn. Reyna moved this time, swiping her spear from the side, Talia deflecting it with her own. Reyna narrowed her eyes, sliding the shaft of her spear down, twisting the head up under Talia's arm and tugging back in an attempt to disarm her opponent. Talia snorted, like I would fall for that. Talia was a spear woman herself, twisting with the attempted disarm and countering with an electrified swipe at Reyna's feet. Reyna hopped back, avoiding being shocked and glaring at the daughter of Zeus. See? Nico rolled his eyes. Yeah, Talia, we see. Resorting to cheap tactics? She asked. No such thing, Ares grinned as Athena rolled her eyes, but silently agreed in this case. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. Talia said, smirking as she quoted her boyfriend. He had learned that from his uncle, and the campers loved using that quote whenever they had the chance. Which uncle said that? Ares questioned with a grin as Hermes snorted. Please, like you could come up with that. So it's obviously for me. Ha! You wish Speedstick. It had caused a lot of fights between cabins 5 and 6, though that wasn't too surprising. Reyna bristled at the quote and carefully re-evaluated the situation. She had sparred against Jason and was prepared for powerful gales of wind to be thrown at her, not lightning. So you mainly focus on wind? Talia asked as Jason shrugged, he liked wind. This made her wonder if she shouldn't have grabbed the lighter shield in favor of speed over defensive qualities. Foolish mistake. Athena gloated, some war child she was. I'm dying of old age over here, Talia said with a smirk, making Reyna's eyes narrow. Sadly you can't do that here. Hades commented with a smirk to his niece, who scowled at the remark. You're not the only he's taught to spar, Reyna hissed, once more moving forward. She stopped short and allowed her spear to slide until the end was in her hands. She turned swiftly, avoiding a jab and with her spear out to its fullest reach, swung it hard. Talia caught the attack with aegis, sliding along the ground from the force of it and then struck. Nice hit, Frank whistled. Yeah, Reyna has always been good with her spear. Hazel added. Her spear became encased in a large amount of electricity and she brought it back for another jab. Reyna just barely managed to bring her shield up as Talia sent a large lightning bolt at the girl's previously exposed side. Dance, Talia grinned as Zeus was smirking at the sight. Ah lightning, how wonderful you are. The result was explosive, Reyna's shield fell to the might of Talia's lightning and Reyna let out a cry of pain at the jolts going through her arm. She stumbled back and took a knee as she tried to regain feeling in her left arm. Which she really won't. Jason noted. It won't do you any good. Your nerves are fried. See? Yes, Jason. Piper smirked, go Talia. Talia said as she brought her spear back. You can go ahead and surrender now. The Romans hissed at that, bad move. Romans do not surrender. We never concede, Reyna said, scowling at the girl. Her shaky left hand reached behind her and unsheathed a dagger just as big as her forearm. Okay, that's impressive. Talia nodded, her respect for the girl going up a bit. If she could still move her arm after that, it was impressive. In the stands, Piper leaned forward a bit, curious how she would use her dagger, being a dagger user herself. She had picked it out before they left, Katropus, the dagger of Helen. So now I've got 2 daggers? The love child questioned with a grin, nice. Piper's going to dual wield? That sounds interesting. Annabeth noted. Jason caught her interest and a golden brow arched upward before he returned his attention to the fight. What good will that do you? Talia asked, eyes narrowing. It was admirable that she didn't give up, Talia didn't either, but Reyna was down an arm. Ooh, She's lowering her guard. I am not. Talia frowned at Nico's remark. Aha. I'm much more efficient on offense, Reyna said as she got back to both feet. Did you ever learn just who my godly parent is? Bel something, right? The goddess of wisdom snickered at that while Jason just looked at Talia, who had an innocent smile on her face. Bologna, Reyna said, lifting her dagger and spinning it around to hold it in reverse like Naruto would a kunai. Goddess of war. Bah, Athena sneered, she was the war goddess. Big whoop, Talia said, feeling a bead of sweat form on the side of her face. A goddess of war. Great. Annie was tough as it was with her own dagger, but this girl had been raised in a military camp. I could win, Annabeth stated firmly, right, Percy? Yeah, he nodded quickly, for sure. He supported. Annabeth nodded, that was what she thought. Add that to the training of camp and Naruto's teachings, Reyna continued, making Talia stiffen at her boyfriend's name popping up. Bad move, Percy said. Reyna suddenly rushed forward with her spear brought back. Talia prepared to defend against it with Aegis, batting the spear away, but in doing so, exposed her spear-wielding arm to Reyna. The daughter of Bologna slashed at the arm, drawing first blood by cutting through Talia's leather jacket and quickly retreating. I'm not your average daughter of Rome, Talia gasped, so did Annabeth, she. The hunter stammered with a furious face. You little, Talia said, her teeth gritting tightly at the taunt and the small sting of fresh air on her arm. She wasn't really all that pissed about getting hurt. Her jacket was sliced. She loved this jacket, damn it. Really? Jason asked her, that's all that matters. At this point, yes, very much so. The hunter huffed. Now she'd have to get Annie to fix it, again. Thanks, Annie. Annabeth glared at her, so, I'm your seamstress now? She asked with a bit of bite. Because you love me? And you're lucky for it. I love you too, Annie. I believe it's your turn, Reyna said, smirking. That's it, the kid gloves are off, Talia said, bringing the cut arm back and swiping it through the air. A large gale of wind sent Reyna sliding back to the walls of the arena, the praetor using her own arms to shield her face. Talia pouted, I don't usually sue wind. Seems Naruto fixed that for you. Jason smirked, getting his sister to scowl. Lightning still better. Of course. Jason nodded mockingly. Talia glared harshly at the Roman girl. She had the nerve to slice her jacket. Total bitch. Talia nodded. The balls to insult her camp to her face. Annabeth shook her head, not cool. The audacity to suggest she was better than Talia in a fight. Nico rolled his eyes, yes, because that is such a crime to your ego. Shut it, death breath. And to top it off, the bitch went and hugged her boyfriend right in front of her. Someone get the pyre ready. Aphrodite commented, it was so on now. Granted, a hug could mean a lot of things, it wasn't an innocent hug and Talia knew it. That was the grounds for war, but Talia decided to be the bigger woman and let it slide. Until now, anyway. How amazingly mature of her, Poseidon said dryly, why, the benevolence of her father runs strong. Silence, Poseidon. Talia raised her spear up to the sky and the clouds over Camp Jupiter started to darken and swirl. A bolt of lightning shot down, striking the tip of the spear, supercharging it. Apollo started to hum the chords for Thunderstruck, getting Talia to look amused. Piper and Jason were calling her name, but she tuned them out in favor to fire small bolts from her now crackling spear at the praetor. Dance, little Roman, dance. Ares just looked at his war sister. "De hell is wrong with you?" he questioned, getting her to flush. If Ares was asking that, oh order. Reyna was forced to drop her spear in favor of dodging the shots more efficiently and attempt to close the distance between them. That is until one bolt found its mark, sending the praetor back into the walls of the arena with a loud bang. Ah, may aim so good. Probably only because of Naruto, Percy snorted since her aim used to suck at times. What was that, fish boy? You heard me. He smirked, getting the hunter to glower. Talia lowered her smoking spear down as Reyna groaned, her head free of the helmet and her golden armor caked in a nasty scorch mark, charred and indented. Amazed that it didn't blow up. Jason commented, since Imperial gold was unstable if broken, but he guessed being dented didn't count. The daughter of Zeus stalked forward as Reyna struggled to get to her hands and knees. Talia willed Aegis away as she approached and gripped her spear with both hands, bringing her still smoking spear tip to Reyna's neck. Yield. It wasn't a suggestion this time. Well, that was a good fight. Annabeth nodded. Reyna tried her hardest and she did pretty well in her opinion. Reyna looked up to glare at her face caked in dirt from the impact. There was still fight in her eyes, but this wasn't a battle she was going to win. Jason palmed his face, you should have knocked her out. Why? I won. You'll see. She expected the smart logical response Annie would have given, that's because she's a child of the honorable war goddess. Athena frowned. Reyna doesn't give up easily, Hazel stated. And that was what caused Talia to be caught off guard. Never, Reyna said, throwing dirt up into her face. Talia gave a small cry of surprise and pain as the dirt hit her eyes. She cried out again when she was cut on the leg, making her drop to a knee and half blindly stab out with her spear as she also rubbed at her eyes. Wow, Frank whistled, she must really want to win. Reyna wasn't the type for cheap moves. I am loving this cat fight. Leo grinned widely. Her spear flew from her hand and Talia was kicked in the side, sending her to the ground. One of her eyes cleared up as she was kicked in the side again before her own spearhead was pressed against the underside of her chin, tilting it up. Bitch took my spear. You will yield, Reyna said, scowling at her. What happened to cheap tricks? Talia asked with a glare through her one good eye. It's sometimes necessary to succumb to barbaric tactics when facing a barbarian, Reyna said. Well, she's right on one part. Heir commented, getting a glare from Talia, but she just smirked in amusement. Digging the spearhead into her chin a bit. Now surrender. Fuck you, Talia hissed, swinging out with her arm and using the wind to lay her over her fist, nailing Reyna in the gut hard enough to send her into the air and make her land a few feet away on her back. How eloquently put. Percy commented, very Talia-like. Silence, water boy. While Reyna tried to regain her lost wind, Talia got back to her feet and rubbed furiously at her one bad eye in an effort to get dirt out of it. Now that's just asking for an infection. Apollo tutted. She grabbed the dagger Reyna dropped and chucked it at the girl's hand as she reached for Talia's now discarded spear. And Talia with the ninja throw. Annabeth smirked at her, getting the hunter to roll her eyes. Reyna quickly pulled away, glaring back at her as Talia picked the spear up and capped the tip, returning it to the form of a mace canister, tucking it away into her jacket. The daughter of Zeus discarded her jacket and tossed it aside, looking at Reyna's discarded spear and holding her hand out. She made a vacuum of wind and the spear came to her hand just as Reyna picked up her knife. Okay, now that was cool, the hunter whistled, note to self, practice wind powers. Stealing weapons now? Reyna asked as she got to her feet, looking a bit tired. Talia felt the same. Layering on wind over her hand was as far as she could get, but Naruto had been helping her since the spring with her manipulation over the wind. He was trying to coax her to accept all aspects of being Zeus' daughter, use everything to her advantage. And honestly, until now all that control training seemed like a waste of time. Karate Kid thought the same thing, now look at what he did, Apollo said smugly. Hypocritical bitch, Talia said accusingly. Reyna scowled. Lightning throwing puta. Covering his mouth, Leo oohed at that while Talia looked confused. Some of the gods blinked at that one, while Apollo joined Leo and Ares burst into laughter. Talia frowned and asked. What did she call me? A whore. Hera happily supplied, a coy smile on her face. Bitch. The hunter snapped with rage on her features. Oh no, she didn't. Talia thought with sparking eyes. She charged forward with the spear, jabbing it forward in a feint and then aiming a swing with the rear end at Reyna's face. Reyna blocked with her dagger and took hold of the middle of her spear, the two girls struggling with it. Where's the mud? Leo, Jason snapped at his friend, sister. Not sorry at all. Whatsoever. The fire user said with a shrug. Talia growled at her opponent, sending a powerful current through the weapons that had Reyna dropping them. Reyna backed away from a follow-up swing, kicking the spearhead down and then swinging her arm out. The spear shot deep into the dirt, and try as she might, Talia couldn't pull it out. She had to let go of the weapon as Reyna swung a punch at her. So the claws come out now, huh? Leo, Piper scolded him. This is hot. You can't stop me from making comments. The boy told her. Talia backed up, settling into a stance of her style that Naruto helped her create. He ended up jokingly calling her style the anti-ninja, seeing as it was more of a mixture of brawling and the beginnings of his village's academy's taijutsu. Sweet. Talia cheered. Come on, Talia. Annabeth cheered for her friend. Go Reyna, Hazel said and got some looks and she shrugged. What? Got to go with home team, right? She asked and looked at Jason, who was squirming a bit at that. Talia brought in her own fists, now caked in electricity, like a boxer would. Her jabs had Reyna backing up and countering with her arms, trying not to directly catch the thrown fists or the electrically covered arms that were being swung at her. Jason hummed with intrigue. That was an interesting idea. He'd have to try that out. Talia was thinking the same thing. Reyna caught an attempted punch with one arm and ducked around Talia, driving her elbow into Talia's unprotected back. Talia stumbled forward, her hands dropping the static arcing off it, quickly spinning around to keep an eye on her opponent. Reyna swung several punches at her before being caught by the wrist and being elbowed in the face. Who? Ares cheered, that one had to hurt. Athena was cheering with him, it was so weird. The crowd let out a low ooh at that hit, seeing as their praetor's nose was most likely shattered. Ouch, Jason winced, man, he was happy Reyna wasn't here. It would get ugly, fast. Talia followed up by grabbing the back of Reyna's neck and driving her knee into Reyna's stomach. The armor had Talia regretting that decision slightly, but it did the job, winding the younger girl and forcing her to her knees. It's a chest plate for a reason, Talia. Annabeth mock scolded as the hunter simmered and crossed her arms. I was getting into the fight, sue me. Talia brought her foot up into Reyna's side much like the daughter of Bellona had done earlier to her, making Reyna fall to her back. A black combat boot slammed down on Reyna's chest piece, getting a gasp of pain from her. Bow before me. Talia, Percy told her, calm down. Never. Surrender, Talia said, glaring at the girl. Now. Reyna coughed once, meeting her glare with defiant eyes. Never. Tough girl, but it won't do her any good sadly. Jason just shook his head, his sister was taking this too personally now. You just don't know when to quit, do you? Talia asked, glaring at the girl. She leaned down and grabbed Reyna by the top of her hair. How are you going to outlast Naruto when you can't even outlast me? Talia flushed and Apollo whistled as Hermes laughed. Innuendo. The brother chorused with laughter as Talia stammered. No way we did that. She proclaimed intensely. What are you talking about? Reyna asked, her cheeks quickly gaining some heat as she thought about what that sentence implied. See, Aphrodite giggled, even Reyna knows what you're saying. We didn't. Talia just knew they hadn't. Reyna got an answer in the form of an electrified fist slamming into her forehead. The praetor slumped down, her eyes closed as Talia stood upright and crossed her arms over her chest. Well, that distracted her. Piper smirked to Talia, who glared at her. At least she won, Athena said, feeling proud for the Greeks in winning. She was still getting way too into it. Spars, you stupid bitch. Don't think about my boyfriend like that, Talia said quietly, a bit of pink in her own cheeks. Ha! See? Boo, the love goddess pouted with crossed arms. The crowd was silent before Piper cheered, making the arena burst into applause. Despite her heated cheeks, Talia quirked a grin and raised her arms in victory. I'm so awesome. Talia grinned as her friends rolled their eyes. Talia-chan? The daughter of Zeus shook her head and looked at her boyfriend curiously. He was arching his brow and looking at her in confusion. I've been trying to get your attention for a few minutes. Oh. Sorry, Whiskers. Just spaced out, Talia said, smiling at him slightly. What did you want? I wanted to know if you won the spar, Naruto said. He blinked in surprise when her smile grew and she rested her head on his shoulder as they walked. Oh, she certainly had, now to claim the spoils Tilda. Aphrodite. Artemis frowned. I won, idiot, Talia said softly, wrapping one arm behind him and around his side. Her smile was wide. She had many spars with Reyna after that, always ending in a similar manner, but each time Reyna was more relentless and determined to wear her down. That must have been entertaining, Nico said as Talia grinned, but it turned into a scowl when he said, seeing Talia get slapped around, that is. Go hump a tombstone. Really? I couldn't tell. You're gonna have to tell me about it sometime, Naruto said, grinning. Maybe one day, Whiskers, Talia said, grinning up at him before looking at Piper. But not today. Right now, I just want to go home. As my lovely lady commands, so it shall be, Naruto said with a chuckle as he led them to the parking space where his car was. They loaded up and headed back to Camp Half-Blood, Talia having a secretive smile on her face while Piper and Naruto shared a look in the mirror. Things were definitely looking up. Yep, they are, Annabeth said and gave Percy a look, you better be coming back soon. Her tone stern. Yes ma'am. Whipped. Leo rolled his eyes. Most of them are. Nico commented to the boyfriends, who couldn't really argue on that one without getting a look from their significant other. 25. Percy was having a very nice vacation, if he said so himself. Nice, huh? Annabeth asked him dryly and the water boy shrugged. I really deserved one to be honest, he said. Humph. Annabeth pouted since he really worried her. For the past 2 days, time is a lie. Nico muttered. It was a lot longer than that. He got to lounge on a beach, being served blue drinks from invisible and quiet servants. He had pleasant conversations with the pretty girl, Calypso the sorceress, who at first he was wary of but quickly realized she wasn't like Circe or her father Atlas. He also noticed she seemed to pull away whenever they have a nice time. Calypso also made great dinners as well as her fantastic breakfasts and lunches, on par with the meals at Camp Half-Blood. Percy had a smile on his face as Annabeth grabbed his arm and hugged it, a pout on her face. Percy looked at her with a slight chuckle, making her mock glare at him. And best of all, he didn't have to worry about getting killed by monsters. I'd like that, to be honest. Leo admitted. He didn't even have to worry about training to fight monsters. Another bonus was that he didn't have to deal with Naruto taunting him during spars or just in general. You just don't like him. Be quiet, Jason. He didn't have to deal with his annoying lightning using cousin annoying, huh? Well, it is true. Watch it, fish boy. Or her romance with the taunting whiskered asshole. Talia scowled at the boy as he grinned at her. It was what she got for teasing him and Annabeth all the time. Finally, probably beating not worrying about the monsters trying to kill him, was not worrying about the great prophecy. Okay, that one I admit was a tough one, Percy said, making the gods shift a bit. Life was good. Percy was currently doing his favorite activity of relaxing on the beach, his arms behind his head acting as a pillow while the sea breeze drifted across him like a cool blanket. He looked up at the sun, which he knew to be Apollo's chariot, and gave it a light glare as it reminded him of his tormentor and the subject of his current anger, more than Luke even. Wow, harsh, Percy. Talia whistled. Percy went a bit pink. Shut up, he mumbled. He shook the thoughts away so he didn't return to that sense of mind, and his thoughts drifted to the honey blonde-haired strategist. Annabeth beamed at that. He hoped Annabeth and Nico made it out all right, which they probably did, thanks to Nico's shadow travel. Still though, Percy couldn't help but worry about his friends. Because he wouldn't be Percy if he didn't. Frank commented. Percy's head tilted back so he could look at the sky. He wondered what Annabeth was doing right now. Once again, Annabeth was beaming. Good afternoon, Percy. Calypso's voice snapped him from his thoughts. Why that little? Annabeth, Percy frowned at his girlfriend, making her humph a bit. She was kind of cute, all jealous like he noted. Percy looked over again and was once more in awe of her appearance. The sun gleamed pleasantly off her milky skin, increasing her natural beauty. Her caramel-looking hair drifted in the breeze and that wonderful smell of cinnamon filled the son of Poseidon's nose. At the moment, she was the epitome of the word angel. Can we please speed through this part? Annabeth asked with a deep pout. No. Was the unified answer. She smiled at him, a smile that had his face turning slightly red. May I join you? Yeah. It's your island, right? Percy said, giving her a light smile. I suppose it is, Calypso said. She sat next to him, rather close. Annabeth glowered a bit, making some roll their eyes. Well, not Piper. She understood completely. And enjoyed listening to the ocean's calming, yet constantly drifting waves. Poseidon has been rather restless lately, hasn't he? Of course I am. Yeah, Percy said a bit hesitantly. He felt guilty at feeling relaxed while Poseidon fretted about something, most likely Tyson, or you. The sea god commented. Bah, Hades waved him off. He's on an island, and you knew he was there. Nonetheless, I was still worried. The Lord of the Ocean huffed. But at the same time he felt incredibly righteous. Poseidon faltered at that while his brothers smirked at him as Percy looked sheepish, knowing what his other was thinking. After all, it was his sire that thrust him headfirst into the quest for Zeus' lightning bolt when he had, 2 weeks of training. Actually, not even 2 weeks. Sorry, the sea god muttered, but he needed his son. Since then, it has been a never-ending nightmare nearly every summer he came to camp and one winter, so Percy was leaning more towards righteousness, feeling justified in this vacation he got out of sheer luck. Poseidon brooded while Percy looked slightly apologetic as the god's siblings and relatives snickered at bit at him. I would love to be able to sit here all day, but I require some assistance in the garden, Calypso said, looking to Percy with a small smile. Do you think you could help me? In the garden? Percy asked. You know, plants and stuff, Percy. I know, Nico. The boy said dryly to his cousin. She nodded once and Percy shrugged. Sure, why not? Thank you, Percy. The Lady of Ogygia said, giving him another bright smile that had him looking away sheepishly. She stood and led him to her garden on the other side of the island. Percy was in awe of it. It was gorgeous, with flowers of all shapes, sizes and colors. There were budding flowers centered on a small patch directly under the sky, looking like a soft ball of silver. It really is a beautiful sight. Aphrodite commented, just one of the things she likes to use to entrance someone to stay. Or she just likes to garden. Demeter corrected her. Oh, of course. The love goddess nodded mockingly. The most help will be needed when the moon rises, but for now can you mix some of this fresh soil in? Calypso asked, once more sounding a bit distant. Sure, Percy said with a shrug. He helped Calypso with her garden, much like he had helped his mom before. He wasn't born with a green thumb like Katie was, but he was good at doing manual labor for the girl. Anyone can do manual labor. Ares snorted. Zeus smirked at Poseidon. Indeed, I remember a certain god who had to build a wall. It must be hereditary. His brother glowered while Hades snickered. Oh, sure. Rubbed salt in the wound that he had to serve a mortal for a bit, but he got his payback, until his damn nephew ruined it. Mixing the soil was a tedious but at the same time relaxing task, one that let him and Calypso talk a bit more, mostly about the queen of the island herself. When it came to why she was on the island, she started to clam up again, but stopped. Her eyes met his, and Percy swore he heard his heart pound in his chest. Why I am here. Percy, Calypso began, only to cut herself off as her eyes looked behind him and she immediately bowed. Lord Hephaestus. Aw, you ruined it, Hef. Meh. The god shrugged, uncaringly. Calypso, Hephaestus said with a nod. He looked down to Percy and spoke. We need a moment alone, please. Manners, Poseidon grinned, must have gotten it from Thetis. He commented, making Hera frown at him along with Zeus. Of course, Calypso said. She can stay, it's her island, isn't it? Percy asked, Hephaestus arching a brow at the question. This is matters of the private sort, Hephaestus said gruffly. Calypso put a hand on Percy's shoulder as he made to protest, shaking her head and making him stop. She gave another bow and left the two alone. Hephaestus let out a soft sigh. Shame about her. Could have had a much better life if she made good choices. Real shame, Apollo pouted but Artemis glared at him. What? It is. What do you mean? Not my story to tell, Hephaestus said with a grunt. You destroyed my workshop. All those tools are going to need to be replaced. Yeah, but the telekines are dead, Percy said. Still had to replace them. Oh, Ares rolled his eyes, wave of your hand and you have them, if not, you make them. Shut up you baby. Says the one afraid of pickle jars. Those things are dangerous. Not the pickles, but just the jars, stupid fear. Yes they are, rotten ingrates, Hephaestus said with a scowl on his face as his beard burst into flame. He shrugged it off. Still though, your little explosion had a side effect. All the gods locked onto Percy, even his father, making the boy squirm. What do you mean? Percy asked, a bad feeling swelling in his stomach. Hephaestus looked down at him. You stirred Typhoon, a monster I would really rather not have to fight again. None of us did. The gods said as one. Typhoon? Percy asked, getting a nod. That was one monster story he knew by heart. The monster that nearly beat the Olympians? Yes. The gods said as one. Yes. Oops. Zeus just looked at his nephew incredulously. Oops, really, Percy Jackson, just an oops? My bad? There's just no hope for this one, Hades mumbled. Poseidon glared at his brothers. Okay, so his son messed up, rather big time, but still. It was handled, get over it. Hephaestus just glared at him before continuing. Listen, demigods are vanishing from camp and Daedalus has yet to be found. Well, it's only been like 2 days. 2 days? Right, the time runs slower here, Hephaestus mumbled, spiraling off into making a machine that aligned time everywhere. A super clock of some sort. Percy weakly cleared his throat and Hephaestus looked at him. Oh, right. No. Not 2 days. 2 weeks have passed, Percy Jackson. Well, there's reality in the face for you. Leo smirked. 2 weeks? Percy asked, his face paling. Yep, Hephaestus said with a nod. He scratched his beard. Now what else was I going to say? Ah, right. The camp could use your strength, son of the Earthshaker. Yes, go shake it up for us, Percy. Frank, I swear, next time you're a small animal. I'm sure they'll get along fine without me, Percy said. I mean, it's been 2 weeks. Not like we were worried. Annabeth glared at him. Sorry. And yet Daedalus has not been found, Hephaestus said. You were supposed to help us after we cleared out your workshop, Percy said. I did say I would, Hephaestus said, frowning. For a moment, Percy thought the god was going to pull a Geryon on him, but he was proven wrong as Hephaestus shrugged. It's not like it would do any harm. You mean you're going to help? I said I would, Hephaestus said, scowling at him for thinking otherwise. Seriously, I know how to keep my word. The smith huffed, getting some looks from his family, even if it was true. While Percy gave him an apologetic wince, the god of the forge snorted. Humph. Well, you see, Theseus had helped through the labyrinth. Oh, most certainly, ungrateful brat. Dionysus snorted as the demigod's father rolled his eyes. And he thought Hades held a grudge. The thread, Percy said, recalling the story. And something else. Ariadne. She wasn't merely one who gave him string, as if string alone could get you through the labyrinth. Hephaestus snorted. He saw Percy furrow his brows in confusion. Some mortals have the ability to see through the mist. Ariadne was one of them. It's a rare ability, and running into one who can is at least 10 times the chance of actually having it. Clear-sighted mortals, everyone said. You have wished for something you already have. Hera's voice echoed in the son of Poseidon's head. Annabeth pouted at that, not figuring it out since it was so simple. Percy's eyes went wide as he thought about the eccentric and fun Rachel Elizabeth Dare, the girl who saw the vampire cheerleaders, the skeletons on Hoover Dam, and knew about his real life as a demigod. That explained a whole lot. And Annabeth's next rival. Aphrodite nodded as the blonde girl groaned at that. That was going to be painful to see. Just something to think about, Hephaestus said, while Percy came to terms with his realization. Before Percy could ask anything else, the smith god vanished in a large pillar of fire. Percy stared at the spot Hephaestus stood at before turning around to find Calypso and ask her some more questions. 2 weeks had passed since Annabeth's return from her quest, and the night had fallen on Michael U's birthday, and Mr. D and Chiron had told all campers to go to the amphitheater. Oh, this is going to be funny. Percy grinned. Man, Clarice was going to miss out on this. Talia and Annabeth took a seat next to Piper and Leo, the two half-siblings playfully arguing over who had the better week. I did. The two said, mock glaring at each other before laughing. Michael U sat on Leo's other side while Talia took the seat next to Piper and Annabeth the seat next to Talia. They shared a greeting and looked to the stage as it suddenly burst into light, 4 members of Apollo's cabin on the stage, with a familiar whiskered teen standing in front of them. Boy band, nice going kids. Apollo whistled as Hermes rolled his eyes. All right, calm down. Never. They all wore red uniforms that looked like flight apparel and stood at attention. Talia made out Naruto's younger twin brothers John and Owen, who were both equally hams like her boyfriend was, on the right, while Will and the cabin counselor Lee were standing at to her beau's left, the counselor winking into the stands, no doubt where his girlfriend Katie was. Go Lee. Demeter huffed a bit as Apollo praised his sons for being awesome like him, as always. Will was looking to the right, where Nico sat near another child of Apollo who was helping Bianca get into her own seat. Hades and Nico grumbled. My kids, they just get all the girls. Apollo, shut up. The 3 elder gods said, glaring at the blonde. He just shrugged, don't be hatin' my genetic swagger. Talia caught Naruto's eye as she looked back at him. He smiled reassuringly at her. Stagehands, most likely clones or other Cabin 7 members, were preparing things around them. One gave Naruto a mic and he grinned as he stepped forward. Hello Camp Half-Blood. Are you all having a good summer? His question was met with cheers and applause, Naruto beaming at the reply he got. Awesome. Well, in case some of you didn't know, we got a birthday boy in the audience. Oh, this is going to be priceless, Annabeth giggled, poor Michael. The spotlight spun around before landing on Michael, making him look like a deer. The crowd clapped mundanely and Naruto tisked in disapproval. Oh come on, I know we don't do this for everyone, but Blackie's my little bro. I wanted to give him a cool show for his birthday, and while maybe seeing his favorite artists in person would have been better, we're going to do our best. So give him a round of applause and everyone get ready for the classic song, Happy Birthday. I can feel his pain. Right from here. Leo winced, poor Blackie. There was grumbling now, but Naruto chose to ignore Cabin 5's disapproval as he cleared his throat, his brothers behind him getting some microphones of their own. The 4 of them sang together, making a sweet harmony that had the crowd silent in awe. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday dear Michael. They paused and cleared their throats. Happy birthday YY, to OOU. Michael flushed and sunk into his seat, trying to stay out of the spotlight, which was hilariously ironic considering who his father was indeed. Arte, you are hurtful. But Artemis just smiled sweetly at him, making the sun god pout. Before the crowd burst into applause and joined the 4 brothers in yelling out aloud happy birthday, Michael U. The 4 brothers stepped back and got several instruments handed to them, or in Will's case, took a seat behind some drums. Dat my drummer boy, strike those drums like a pro. Now, Naruto said as the crowd quieted and the spotlights returned to him, looking out into the audience as his brothers tuned their instruments. Michael U is turning 15 today, so these songs are ones we've chosen from his personal playlist, so that's what happened to my iPod, Michael said under his breath with wide eyes. He suddenly felt the urge to shrink away in embarrassment. Got some embarrassing songs on there? Piper teasingly asked. Oh, who doesn't? Apollo snorted. Me, Talia said smugly. Aha, sure, Apollo said and coughed into his hand. Lair. Oh, sorry, tickle in my throat. And after sorting through the Hilary Duff and Backstreet Boys, Naruto said, pausing as the crowd laughed. That poor soul. Hazel shook her head, feeling sorry for him now. He waited for it to die down before raising his hands. Kidding, kidding. His taste isn't that bad. We found a few good songs to share with the rest of you, especially in these troubled times. It's a bit retro, though. So some of you may want to have your pamphlets ready. This first one I picked because not only is it friggin' hilarious, it reminds me of something I deem important. I wonder who? Aphrodite teetered with the giggles. He said something, not someone. Aphrodite. Bah, Artemis, read in between the lines. Talia's eyes widened and she flushed bright red as her eyes met his for a split second. He wouldn't. Ha, see. Even other Talia knows. Great, the girl in question grumbled, looking a bit pink and curious about the song choice. Ready guys? Naruto asked, turning around to look at his brothers. Lee gave a thumbs up from where he was on the left, his bass at the ready. Will played with his uniquely ridged drumsticks before giving a nod. John and Owen both gave him grins, the twins holding their guitars at the ready. Naruto put the microphone back on its stand before nodding at Lee. Ooga chaka, ooga ooga, ooga chaka, ooga ooga, ooga chaka, ooga ooga, ooga chaka. Lee, John and Owen started to sing in chorus. Naruto cleared his throat softly before he began to sing. I love this song, Apollo gushed, so perfect. Talia groaned and palmed her pink face, great. I can't stop this feeling, deep inside of me, girl you just don't realize, what you do to me, Naruto said, his voice a bit lower than normal. When you hold me, in your arms, so tight, you let me know, everything's all right. There were a few sighs from some of Piper's sisters seated nearby and Talia frowned. Hey, that's my man, Annabeth said, trying to copy Talia's face. Annie, I swear. Before she could stop their thoughts with a strong encouraging conversation, kicking their asses. Percy translated. Pretty much. Talia nodded shamelessly. Naruto brought a bit of life to his song, the beat picking up as he lightly danced to the music on stage while he gripped his microphone. I'm hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing, that you're in love with me, Naruto said, pointing out to the audience while his eyes met Talia's. Serenade the beauty, Naruto. Talia just buried her face in her hands. The crowd cheered, unable to resist the happy beat and the positive lyrics, except for the sourpusses in the cabins or cabin 5 members shook their head. Mark though was laughing, remembering a time when his mom was humming this song while she did the dishes, and several girls swooned. Talia flushed and crossed her arms, closing off her emotions as she felt a bit breached. This was so not cool. Lips as sweet as candy, its taste is on my mind, girl you've got me thirsty, for another RR cup of wine. I know I am, Dionysus whined a little. He's doing okay, Michael said under his breath, a bit jealous that his voice wasn't that deep and kept cracking at times. Ah, Hermes nodded, the awkward teenage years. Aren't you still in those, Herm? You are so hurtful. The winged shoe messenger told his sunny brother, who just grinned cheekily. Okay? This is so hot A girl from cabin 10 began, turning to challenge Michael's assessment before withering under Talia's glare. It's good I guess. Damn right. Thought so, Talia said with a nod as the girl turned back around. She watched her boyfriend on stage as he brought himself close to the mic. Got a bug from you girl, but I don't need no cure, I'll just stay a victim, if I can pursue you you're. Naruto sang, leaning forward a bit before snapping back upright. All the good love, when we're on our own, keep it up girl, yeah you turn me on. I'm hooked on a feeling. I'm high on believing, that you're in love with me. And she is. The Lady of Doves giggled. The music quieted down when Naruto held his hands up and the 4 brothers started the Uga Chaka chant. Naruto cleared his throat and began again. All the good love, when we're on our own, keep it up girl, yeah, you turn me on. Naruto paused and nodded his head, causing Will to bang down on his drums before all the sons of Apollo sang the chorus. I'm hooked on a feeling. I'm high on believing, that you're in love with me. I'm hooked on a feeling. I'm high on believing, that you're in love with me. Naruto grabbed the microphone and leaned forward a bit. I said I'm hooked on a feeling, and I'm high on believing, that you're in love with me. I'm hooked on a feeling. Talia, your retort? Shut up, McLean. Will ended it with a final drum and Naruto bowed his head while the campers applauded and cheered. Talia watched the rest of the show with a heated gaze locked on her boyfriend. He and his brother swapped places, all performing lead on their own picks from the iPod that belonged to the very bright red and trying to hide birthday boy in the stands. Ah, suck it up, kid. Hermes snickered. Admittedly, it was sort of hot to see Naruto do the guitar solo to Livin' on a Prayer. See? Musicians get all the girls. Apollo grinned. Leo turned to Nico, wanna start a band? No. Was the instant reply, making the pyro pout. She formed an idea as she watched the whiskered teen take the bass from his brother for the next song. And this idea is no doubt to get busy with the lead singer Apollo teased the hunter. Apollo, Artemis frowned, I highly doubt that is it, her brother snorted. Sure. After the show ended, Annabeth turned to ask Talia what she thought of the show but blinked in confusion when she saw that the daughter of Zeus was gone. To hook up. Apollo. Zeus frowned. What? The sun god shrugged, it is so going to happen. Shut up. Talia groaned, she did not want to hear this. She looked back on stage to see the wheelchair-bound Bianca giving Will a deep kiss Wyanka for the win. Apollo. Hades raged as the sun god snickered, his kids were awesome. And Lee embracing his own girlfriend. 2 for 2 Apollo. Demeter frowned. The daughter of Athena unknowingly frowned alongside a glaring Nico D'Angelo, whose black eyes were locked on the forms of his sister and the boy kissing her. Nico, you have my permission to stab him in the back. Sure, Dad. Whoa, hey, Apollo shouted, that's a tad extreme, isn't it? No. The two residents of the underworld said clearly with glares to the sun god. The daughter of Athena had two thoughts running through her mind, the first being where her friend had gone for some hot lovin' of her own. It's not happening, Talia shouted, seriously, this was not cool. And the second being what happened to the green-eyed boy that was her, arguably, closest friend. She just wants to kiss him, too. Aphrodite giggled as Annabeth went pink at that and Athena glared at her fellow goddess. Unknown to her, Annabeth's first pondering could be resolved if one bothered to look behind the amphitheater, where a raven-haired girl with electric blue eyes had her hands fisted in a mess of blonde hair belonging to a whiskered teen. His hands were on her waist and his lips were pressed firmly against hers, parting and allowing entry and exit as they partook in the aptly named French kissing. You were saying, Talia? Okay, so we're kissing. That's it. The hunter shouted, her face red at how deep she was going. What, was she checking his tonsils? They parted for a moment and Naruto panted. Holy shit, Talia. What's the big idea? Pour some sugar on me, Apollo. What? I'm just singing, geez. No talking, whiskers, Talia said, claiming his lips once more as his hands drifted south instinctually, but hesitated. She appreciated his respect for her desire to stay a maiden as he jokingly called it, it's not a joke. Artemis frowned. But right now, it was just annoying. Talia pulled away and electric blue glared into cerulean skies with suns within them. Tonight. Booyah. Apollo cheered as Talia paled. Zeus and Jason were not looking so well either. So, we see in a sex scene? Leo. Tonight? He asked, and she groaned, pulling him into another heated kiss. That seemed to get the message across as he started to, well, indulge his instincts. Which he got from his father, Artemis glared. Hey, I got them from him. The sun god pointed to Zeus. To be fair, Hera said, it's Talia who is starting this. She glared at Zeus, so she got it from him. Zeus stammered a bit as Talia was now both pale and red, looking faintish. Percy was a bit green himself if he was honest. Talia gave a surprised grunt when he turned them around, her back pressed against the wall of the stage and her hands dropped to Naruto's shoulders. Oh, reverse. Aphrodite, no commentary. Artemis pleaded, no, begged. Suffer, virgin. After a moment, they broke for air once more. So, doubt Gigi will let us in the cabin with that intent. He'd be dead the second he would walk in. Zeus scowled as Apollo winced at that. Dad might, but. Yep. Have you no shame? Nope. I'll pass on the possible voyeur from a god, thanks, Talia said dryly. Hey, I wouldn't watch. At least you have some ready, I'd tape it. I take back what I was about to say. Artemis scowled as Talia was getting dizzy now, Jason not far behind her. Don't you have an apartment in New York? Holy shit, yes I do, Naruto said, blinking. He totally forgot about the penthouse suite he was given as a makeshift apology gift from Apollo. And you're welcome, Naruto. Apollo beamed as his sister and father glared heatedly at him. He closed his eyes and thought about his destination before he said the magic word. Herishin. They reappeared in a dark apartment, absent of dust due to the excellent room service. Naruto turned around and looked at his old home for a moment and silently thanked his dad for keeping it in his name, as seen by the kunai thrown into the wall. Before he could say anything, Talia pushed him back on the bed and climbed atop him, both of them having roguish grins on their faces. Ah, the top position, the sign of dominance. The lust of Zeus is strong in this one. Hades. Hestia glared at her snickering brother as Zeus looked a bit pink in the face at that. It was kinda sorta true. Is it over yet? Percy begged. No, Nico told him in a bored tone. Read faster, Annabeth shouted with a red face, not needing to know this. Running away with your boyfriend to his apartment? Daring, aren't you? Naruto asked. Talia smirked and leaned down to kiss him. With a gentle push, he kept her at bay as a serious look overcame his features. Are you sure you want to do this? No. The Grace siblings and Zeus shouted. Talia leaned back and shucked her jacket off, grabbing the bottom of her Camp Half-Blood shirt and lifting it up over her head, tossing it to the side. How bold, Aphrodite gushed. While Naruto gaped at the daring choice of a lacy black brassiere, I take that back, now that is bold. Kill me, Talia cried out. Talia grabbed the collar of his camp shirt and tugged, ripping it open to reveal his chest. Okay, that's kinda sexy. Leo, I swear, Jason said, glaring at his friend, though the effect was lost because he was looking green. Jason, let me watch my free porn. Valdez, Talia said, glaring at the elfish boy. Hey! Talia, what the he? Shut up, Whiskers, Talia said as she lowered her lips to his. Yeah, just shut up and go for a ride. Apollo was glowing with pride as Talia passed out. Literally. Naruto swiftly obliged, keeping his lips on hers, but looking to the moon that seemed to be glaring through the window at him. I would because you're acting like your father. Oh, it was going to happen sooner or later, said father argued to his twin. A quick gesture and the curtains closed thanks to the sensors added into them. Why that little, Artemis said, turning to glare at her twin. The young couple was engulfed in darkness, and they indulged in the acts that made many like them in the first place. Indeed. Hermes and Apollo nodded while the demigods looked green. The whiskered blonde groaned as the sunlight beamed through the window as if full of pride, all directed at him. Go Naruto, it's your birthday. Aw man, we didn't even get to see anything, cope out. Leo pouted. Is it over? Percy asked. Yes, a red-faced Annabeth answered. Wow, if Talia wasn't a hunter. The hunter in question had gotten up from her blackout and heard the affirmative. Thank the gods, she mumbled, she was not ready to see, well, herself do it. Far too creepy and weird. And maybe a little hot, gah. No, bad thoughts. The thick curtains in their damned programmed opening were wide open, leaving the air of Helios and his bedmate in full view of the bright sunlight. Just to intensify that afterglow Apollo. Artemis glared at him. Apollo just laughed it off. Naruto cracked an eye open and glared at the sun, making a wave of his hand and closing the blinds. Naruto smirked victoriously. Aw. Apollo pouted. That ought to teach you, he said quietly, getting a soft grumble from his still sleeping girlfriend as she nuzzled into his side. So, Talia likes to cuddle, too? I will kill you, McLean, I swear it. Naruto let his head roll to look at the serene peace that was on Talia's face. Taming the beast, huh? Ares. Hestia scowled just the war god just gave a laugh. She was glowing from their late-night shenanigans, and dare he think it, but Naruto felt she looked more beautiful than Aphrodite at the moment. Aphrodite pursed her lips, well, an afterglow will do that to any girl, so I can let it slide. This time. Why, thank you, Talia said sarcastically, looking pink in the face. Anytime, well, if you want to look like that no. The hunter mumbled. His right arm was wrapped over her shoulders and much like a cheesy cable television show the covers were doing their job, protecting them from peeping toms, or worse, gods. The worst of all peepers. Artemis commented. Oh, we are just proud of our kids is all. Hermes waved off. Exactly. Apollo nodded, grinning like a loon. Zeus huffed at that but Poseidon said, oh, don't act all high and mighty. I remember when Roosevelt had his first threesome, you were like a peacock. Hey, the king and queen said, for their own reasons. Naruto's finger lightly brushed Talia's cheek and she gave a content sigh at the action. Like wildcat turned kitten. Goddess or not I'll shoot you, Talia roared at the love goddess, who was enjoying every second of this. Rai Gigi is so going to have my head for this, if he even knows about it. Naruto thought, shuddering. Oh, it'll be more than your head. Oh, good. It's safe to talk again. Naruto's eyes went wide and he abruptly stopped stroking Talia's cheek. Helios. Oh man, Apollo whined, He got to see the whole thing? So unfair. Talia looked like she was going to go catatonic at that. Yep. Still here. And wow, what a show. Do tell, hell. Shut up. I mean, how'd you do that thing with your leg? I didn't even think that was a possible position and I'm a friggin' god. Apollo rubbed his chin as Talia was getting dizzy again. Keep talking, hell, keep talking. Shut up. Then there was that belt. Damn, I've seen a lot of strange things, but damn kid. Kinky. Leo, Jason glared. Shut up. And the spanking. Talia likes it dirty. Talia screamed in anguish and hate, pulling her hair as she raged. Why her? Why do the fates enjoy torturing her so? Well, it could have been Naruto, Apollo, Aphrodite said with a giggle that had the demigods blushing. Nah, Talia just seems the type for it. Apollo quickly rebuffed. Lady Artemis. Talia whined, nearly crying. Okay, enough, now. The huntress said, but the other gods just grinned at her. Oh, this will never die. Ever, Hermes said with a snort. Shut up, Helios. Ah, don't worry about it, kid. I won't tell anyone. Naruto could imagine the Titan giving him a wink of reassurance. Hell, I'll even give you a few pointers. I mean, I've been around the block a few times during my life. True, go for the maximum pleasure points, Naruto. Nothing wrong with asking for some help. Aphrodite nodded and looked at her daughter, making Piper go red in the face. Mom, she shouted with embarrassment, but the goddess just giggled. I swear to Tartarus, Helios, let me show you something. Oh really, what would that by order? Geez, what the hell are those things? The green. The spandex. Those eyebrows. By order, Naruto, make it stop. Hey, Apollo frowned, he's just trying to help, kid, nothing wrong with that. It has everything to do with what is wrong, with all of you, Artemis exclaimed. Naruto just grinned as Helios' presence faded away into the background. Ah, even now Rock Lee and Might Guy have his back. Maybe he should just unleash the sunset genjutsu on Kronos and his forces. If only he was better at casting those illusions. A small noise had Naruto looking back at Talia, who blearily looked up at him with radiant blue eyes. Glowing with an after-morning romping of course. Hungry for more after a single taste of manhood. There is just something wrong with you, Artemis muttered as Aphrodite did commentary. Her lips curled up in a soft smile and she leaned up to give him a chaste kiss. She broke away and returned her head to its makeshift pillow while still meeting his eyes. Morning. Morning, Leah-chan, Naruto said just as softly, getting a snort of amusement for the pet name. Ooh, Leah-chan, huh? New pet name? Annie, when you two do it, I will destroy you with teasing. You will be so red-faced you will die. Period. Talia swore to the girl sternly. Blay. Annabeth stuck her tongue out at her. He kissed her on the head and stroked her shoulder with his arm. How do you feel? Sore, Talia said. No doubt for my kid's mighty SW. Ow. The sun god cried out when a silver arrow was jammed into his arm, making him look at his glaring sister. Fine, yeesh. Naruto began channeling chakra and used the soothing warmth of his body to help her relax. She gave a content sigh and her eyes fell shut. Last night was amazing. See? She loved it, Apollo said with a proud grin. Best of my life, Naruto said with a small grin. Better than the foursome? Good question, Aphrodite said. One he better answer correctly, Talia mumbled, but went red once again. 10 times better than the foursome, he said with a small laugh. You're a natural. I wonder why? Hera mocked, making Zeus nearly pout at his wife's words. She should be on his side. Well, I wonder where I got that from? Talia asked sarcastically. Wow, you two agree on something. Jason commented as the queen and Hunter huffed at that. She smiled at his laugh and sighed. We've got to go back to the camp. I don't want word getting around. Oh please. Annabeth snickered as Talia palmed her face. Everyone is going to know as soon as they see you. Yes. That rep of yours is a fragile thing, Naruto said with a chuckle as she poked him hard in the side. A rep is important, Talia said, glaring at the image. After a few more minutes of cuddling and chatting, the couple finally got out of bed and got ready to meet the day at camp. Naruto teleported them to Talia's room in cabin 1, and they quickly left the cabin, Zeus statue boring holes into Naruto's head. No. By all means, please stay. Dad, come on, stop that, Apollo said. No. They were met literally 2 steps outside by a well-rested Annabeth. Talia. Naruto. Where've you, two, been? And Annabeth was the first to realize it. Leo snickered. See? I told you. Shut up, Annie. Naruto saw Annabeth staring at Talia and he groaned, knowing just what she was seeing. Talia was glowing, something that often happened after a girl's first time, and unlike the photokinetic blonde, she couldn't dim it down. You do look pretty. Annabeth offered teasingly. I swear, Annie, one day. Gray eyes narrowed for a moment before tan cheeks gained a red hue as those wise eyes rapidly switched between himself and Talia. Busted, Hermes said with a laugh. Before the daughter of Athena could speak or quickly excuse herself, Mr. D walked past and glanced at his least favorite demigod and the child of Zeus, instantly making the connection. He made a loud groan, gaining nearby campers' eyes and said sternly. Wonderful. They're just like their fathers. Well, I'm not wrong. The wine god said as his brother and father glared at him. Well, for your sake I hope that there was protection involved because I didn't agree to anything younger than 5. Oh, D, you are cruel, Hermes laughed along with his brothers. I do try. He walked away before anything could be said, giving Naruto a barely noticeable smirk that had the blonde's eye twitching. That, clever bastard, Naruto said under his breath. As I've said, I do try, Nathan. A scream pierced the air and he found himself shunted aside as several of Cabin 10's beauties surrounded Annabeth and his girlfriend. Ah, harpies. Talia, Piper frowned at the comparison. She isn't wrong, Annabeth said, making the charm speaker pout. The whiskered son of Apollo dragged a hand down his face as he heard them interrogate Talia to the best of their abilities while she threatened them with pain, only to be brushed off. That's gutsy of them, Athena said, making Aphrodite beam. Great. Just great. Now he had to run damage control. The next 2 days sucked for the couple. Naruto was pestered by his younger curious siblings about what it was like. Aid thy siblings, Naruto. Do good among your kin. Apollo, be silent. Now, Artemis said. And Leo's constant approving grins had him glaring at the shrimp with annoyance. Thumbs up, big man. The rest of Leo's cabin were cool about it, thank the gods, though Charles would occasionally tease him about it. According to Talia, she had it worse, since she was practically swarmed by a group of gossip-seeking girls, from any and all cabins since the camp was a gossip hotline just like Olympus, nearly every moment of freedom she had. In her own words, it was hell. Why am I being tortured here? Talia whined, actually stomping her feet like a child throwing a fit. They backed down after a long silence and a harsh glare from the daughter of Zeus, but then she would be swarmed again by a different group. Smart, Athena admitted. Talia suspected it was organized. The one she suspected most of being the brains behind it was the brains of their group, Annabeth. Annie. What? I can't be curious? No. Ever since Annabeth made that joke about being a godmother? Naruto asked his fuming girlfriend as they hung out in her cabin. I would ask for that. The blonde nodded. So, who's the godfather? Leo asked. Percy? Piper said and Jason snorted. I don't think Naruto would want that. Maybe me. But you're the uncle. Darn. Actually, yes, lucky him. I'll never be an uncle now. The flyboy commented, looking at his sister, who glared. No. Was all she said, she wanted this chapter over with. Now. Naruto used the back window, avoiding the statue of his grandfather as best he could. Heck, even the moon had been glaring down on him recently. He thought he and his aunt were tight. Not after what you did, mister, Artemis scolded him. She sounded far too serious about it, Talia said. Ah, Annie just wants a little nephew to coddle, Naruto said, waving it off with a chuckle. I really would. Annie, stop. Now. The hunter demanded sternly. He snickered as Talia gave him a dry glare. No. Just no, she said as she sat on the couch next to him. Way too soon for kids, Aphrodite nodded, making Talia thankful, but after the war, she giggled off. Stop it. Well yeah, I know. I don't want Rai Gigi using the lightning bolt as an impromptu shotgun on me, Naruto said with an amused chuckle at the thought. Now that would be an interesting one. Hera rubbed her chin, making Zeus groan at the thought. His arm fell over Talia's shoulders as she sputtered before giving him a light smack that he snickered at. I mean, I need to wait until after Kronos is dealt with before I get married. Exactly. The love goddess nodded, even Hera agreed with that thinking. Priorities after all. Talia's cheeks lit up and she lightly shocked him, making Naruto chuckle and rub his side. So you like that plan, huh? You know she does. Nico snickered. Shut up, Whiskers, Talia said, resting her head on his chest. Her eyes drifted shut and a small smile came across her face as his thumb started to trace her shoulder. Yep. Hazel snickered. That wasn't a no, Leah-chan. Talia just gave him an amused smile before reclaiming her place. She says yes. Aphrodite squealed in glee as Talia just buried her face in her hands. Why her? Seriously, why? Couldn't someone else be the butt of the joke now, please? So after the war, what will we do? You're going to be 20 whatever. And you old lady will be 19. Shut up. Well, I guess I have my budding acting career to work on, Naruto said, getting a grunt from Talia. He does. Apollo nodded. Well, he's set. What are you going to do? Be a stewardess? Ha ha, Talia said dryly. Weather girl? That'd be perfect for her. Percy nodded and the hunter scowled. And you'd make a good lifeguard, fish boy. Funny, Talia said dryly as Naruto snickered. The ravenet hummed and shrugged. I don't know what I want to do with my life after this. You could always go to the hunters. Funny, Artemis said dryly as even Talia made a face at that, so not funny. Pass. True. Besides, you love me too much for that. And you lost a big requirement for application. It really is a big deal, Aphrodite mock nodded, making her rival scowl at her. Be silent, you. The Lady of Doves just stuck her tongue out at the huntress. Naruto said with a sigh, inwardly pouting at the reason why his aunt was so mad at him. Oh, she'll forgive you, eventually. Humph. The goddess in question crossed her arms at her twin's words. Which really sucked, he liked being on his aunt's good side. Then you shouldn't have done the deed. Arte, they're teenagers. That doesn't mean anything. Could you please stop ruining the moment? Is sitting quietly and being a pillow really that hard? Talia asked, trying to get comfortable on the couch. TCH, man. Naruto's a lucky bastard, Leo said, crossing his arms. He ignored the offended look Apollo and Hera gave him. Getting a pretty girl to give it up and stay with him like that. Valdez, once this is over, I am so going to find you. And? It will not be pleasant. Trust me. Sorry, Naruto said, smiling lightly at Talia letting her softer side through. He was pleased that he could get her to lower her walls. Let them tumble down, Talia. Annie, Talia cried out in sheer frustration. That sounded like sexual frustration. Nico commented and was tackled to the ground. Hey. Children, Hestia said coolly, making Talia stop her attempt to pound her cousin. Enough. Yes, Aunt Hestia. Talia pouted as Nico looked smug, making Talia glare at him. She'd get him, all of them, later. They sat in the quiet, listening to the soft booms of the ceiling and enjoying each other's presence. Up until the door to the cabin was knocked, or rather banged on, since that was the only way they could hear anything through the thick ginormous doors of cabin 1, on. The couple groaned in unison and regrettably left their comfortable seats, Talia grumbling under her breath about strangulation. Man, whoever it is screwed, Piper said, ignoring Talia's irate look. While Naruto avoided the brief eye contact he made with the statue's eyes. He swore they crackled with electricity when he looked at them. That's right, boy, fear me. Zeus gleamed pleasingly while Apollo frowned. Talia threw the door open and a distressed Annabeth stood in front of them. Talia. Naruto. Chiron is going to burn Percy's shroud. Well, that was a depressing ending, Nico sighed, so I guess he's dead. Shame. Ha ha, Percy laughed dryly, knowing that Nico knew he was alive at the time. Still, that was a mood killer for the not-so-virgin hunter now. Leo, Jason warned, but the boy waved it off. Oh, this was never going to die down. Ever.